Hey, Matt. What up? What up, dog? Baby Walk. How are you? Welcome in, everybody. I have a real juicy one for you. I sent you a Discord. I'll take a look. I think you're going to be pleased. What's happening? Hey, Doug, welcome. Hey, Shiny, welcome, welcome. Can I talk to you? Check TikTok messages if you're curious. What's going on, Matt? Yo, welcome everybody. Hey, Ed. Steve-O. Welcome. Come on in, folks. Hey, Mike Lowesbrush. Hello. I'll check it, Matt. I'll check it. I can't now. I'll check it a bit later. I'll check it after the live. Oh, yeah. Belgium smashed the USA. Belgium got smashed. USA got smashed by Belgium. You know, I haven't been this happy about a team losing in a long time. I feel like after what Donald Trump did, I just felt like, damn, America's trying to fuck up something else again. You know? And then they got smashed. And then I was like, fine. You know? Yo, Napsucat, welcome. I heard people cheering USA, USA in the streets of San Francisco, and I was just like, no. Yeah. Like, you know what Trump did was like completely cheating, right? There is no way these politicians can tell us anymore that that we can't like this whole keep politics out of sports bullshit. This whole keep politics out of sports crap. Stayed up till 1 a.m. to watch them fail. So happy. It was a beautiful thing, folks. It was a beautiful thing. It was a beautiful, beautiful thing. Da, 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 da. Okay, let's get into it. We're going to start off with Belgium said keep USA out of sports. Oh, it felt good. It felt good. Especially that Romelu Lukaku goal right at the end. Oh, that was sweet. That was sweet. Welcome, everybody. Kia ora. Kia ora. Kia ora. Welcome. It's a beautiful thing to watch America lose right now because holy shit. America's trying everything in its power to win. But it just loses everything. Welcome, Dr. O. And it feels good. It feels good, honestly. Belgium saves the World Cup by beating the USA.
Let's return now to the World Cup after a dramatic loss for the US team against Belgium. Former Socceroo Craig Foster joins me now from Adelaide. Hi there, Craig. Look,
Hi.
Any loss is tough, but this one must be particularly brutal for the US given the red card controversy we saw over the weekend and being the last host nation standing.
I think that's right. Also, because Trump had intervened and so on, there was huge pressure on this team. I don't think too many Australians will be crying tears about the fact that they've gone out and that Belgium were far the better team. In fact, it looked as though they froze a little bit, USA. They probably could have done without all the controversy from Trump over the last 24 hours, definitely. And in fact, Balogun, the player who ultimately...
Yeah, Shiny, I've got that video coming next. We're going to watch the failure first. We're going to watch America get fucked up first. And then we're going to watch Trump do his thing with the overturning. Oh, it's going to be great. We've even got Fareed Zakaria today. We've got Liberal Cope as well, everybody. I'm so looking forward. I'm tired as fuck. Because we were driving for so long. But I feel better now. Hey, Decrepit. Welcome, Excalibur. I feel better. Hey, Cass. Radio Free Cloud, hello. Ali, the Orange Buffoo can still appeal Belgium win. He won't. Nothing will happen. Yo, Last Umma, welcome.
ultimately was the source of so much controversy.
Graham Plattner quit. Yeah. I remember talking about that guy. And it's like, bro, who the fuck chooses to go back to serve in the Middle East, Afghanistan and Iraq? It's like, he must be nuts. And bro, we went too far. Trump probably called FIFA
had
president.
Easily his poorest game of the tournament against a very good defence, I've got to say, but he didn't really look himself. So the US really froze in their big moment, which they've done many times before. They've, I think only once, a very, very long time ago, back in 34 was when they went to quarterfinal or beyond, and they made the semi-final. So since then, they've had 7 of these round of 16s. They've never got past them. So whilst all of the rhetoric from the former American pundits about Australia and everyone else about how they're going to win, they never
Yeah, we're going to go over that too last month. I've got that news as well.
were going to win. Unfortunately, most of the world, including me, I have to say today, even though I like this US team, we were all cheering for Belgium because of, what we've seen in the last 24 hours, the very improper overturning or suspension or delay of the red card, if you like. And in the end, actually, Belgium saved this World Cup, because had US have actually won that game, there would have been serious questions asked about every game hence, and the rest of the tournament would have been deeply tainted. So there's no question to almost everyone around the world who often likes to see the US go down in these games where they're so overconfident. But in the end, football has been the winner today. There's no question about that.
Yeah, what sort of an impact do you think this whole red card controversy, Donald Trump intervening situation is going to have on this World Cup as a whole? Is this going to be the thing that people sort of remember once this tournament's over?
Yes, no question about it. As I say, we're very lucky as football fans, as people who love the game, that actually US did not win, because then there would have been very serious concerns about the actual integrity of the remainder of the tournament. Because if US went on and even lost in the next round, which they likely would have done, then questions would have been around, whether Belgium would have won that game, given the fact that Balogun should never have played today. That rule was set in stone. Trump was able to pick up the phone to Infantino. He was able to politically interfere in the actual on-field integrity of the rules themselves, which is quite extraordinary, unprecedented in modern times. So it is the best outcome for the game today. There's no question about that. The better team won as well. Belgium have underperformed in big tournaments in recent years. They had one of the world's best squads. They were called the Golden Generation. And they've kind of come under the radar in this tournament very much. But the last two games, they've showed their quality. And the other thing about what Trump has done, not only did it clearly affect his players, they were nowhere near their capability. They froze, really, in the first half. And before they knew it, they were already 2-0 down. But actually what it very clearly did was gave ultra motivation to Belgium, because they've been so slow in starting the games in this tournament. It's been awful to watch their first halves. And then late in the game, they've had to come from behind.
Yeah, this is so emblematic of where the U.S. is at the moment, you know? All they've done is cheat. Fucking cheating. In the Strait of Hormuz, cheating in Gaza, cheating in fucking every aspect of American life is cheating. And now, and they've lost. America just loses and loses. And it's like, the problem is they have nukes. They'll lose, and then they'll just bomb more people. This is the sickness. America is just a failing empire, and it's going to make everybody suffer because of its bullshit. The next couple of decades is going to be the most insufferable fucking time for the rest of the world. America is going to be this insufferable little baby.
And Lukaku has come on, and other high-class players. But what they did today is they came out.
If you don't like America, leave now. Bro, I wouldn't step foot in that fucking country. I don't live there.
At a very high speed. And they were hugely motivated. We haven't seen a Belgian team this motivated for many, many years. It was clear. Rudy Garcia, the coach's comments, they were very struck. They were hurt by what Trump had done, which effectively is, sporting corruption. It was cheating, basically, political interference. So all of us were very upset about it, and they came out, Belgium, with most of the world cheering them on, and what a performance they put on. They got themselves in front, and USA were never, ever getting back in the game. And in the end, Lukaku, with his, has come on and once again scored, put it beyond doubt, well beyond USA. And they've gone out, and now they're going to have to reconsider, I think, their attitude towards the game and to opponents like Australia, because this kind of disrespectful attitude is not what you see from world champions. The France and, others, Spain, they know that every team now is a real threat. Look at Cabo Verde. I mean, this is the ridiculous nature of this US campaign. They came in, they performed with a certain level of arrogance off the field anyway. And in the end, they've gone out. And the game, speaking honestly, is all the better for it.
You saw the Egyptian head coach dedicating win against Aussies to Palestine and waving Pali flag. Yeah. I just want to know. I just want Americans to know, hey, Shanna, I just had this person come into my TikTok chat and say, if you don't like America, leave now. Go fuck yourself, okay? No one cares about American exceptionalism anymore. No one gives a fuck. Honestly, we're so sick of having to hear Americans every single day. We're fucking sick. America is insufferable, and it just keeps fucking bombing people and killing people. Just stop. Bro, America sucks. Let's listen to this asshole for a second.
Yeah, please.
I wanted to ask you, can you describe your phone call with Gianni Infantino about the red card? And Belgium is appealing the decision. What's your reaction?
You're asking me about the whole soccer thing? So, yeah, I did. I spoke to Gianni, who's highly respected, who's produced the most successful World Cup in history by, they say, 4 times. This isn't just a success. I actually said, Johnny, we've got all these games. Each one is turning out to be a Super Bowl. And we have all these games. You know, when you think of it, every game is like a Super Bowl. Yes, I watched last night. What a game that was with Mexico and England. I mean, 2 countries, I don't know the players, although I think Kane is a great player. See, I played golf with him, and I like him a lot. He's a good golfer, too. But he's really great. But I watched, and no reason for me to watch, and you couldn't take your eyes off the game. Because I said, Johnny, you know, you have all these games, because they added games. In a country where really we don't, it's not our main sport, to put it mildly. And this has been 4 times more successful. He told me last night, the numbers are 4 times greater. They think 50 or 60 million people are going to be watching the game tonight. I mean, you know, this is getting to be Super Bowl numbers. But you have a game tonight, and they think they're projecting a minimum of 50 million people watching a game. We call it soccer. It's called football, I guess, but we can't really call it football because it gets there's a little confusion. So yeah, you call it soccer. We're the only ones that do that, but we have football, and football's great. But I've never seen anything like it. So I saw the play.
A good chunk. Kane played golf with Trump, bro. It's insane. A good chunk of us Americans are sick of our government shit. My flag, that to me used to stand for taking in others and helping, has become something I cringe at when I see them on cars and shit. And I just know that person with the flag on their car is probably a MAGA ass. Yeah. Hey, Coco Millie, welcome. Being laid off on the 15th. Been applying to at least a dozen jobs almost daily for months, and no one is calling back. So many people I talk to are in similar situations. Holy shit, Phil. Whew. It's tough times, folks. America is really making life, just in terms of where we are as a world. America is really doing everything in its power, it feels, to make things extremely hard for everybody. And I'm just saying, what type of work do you do? Why, Mel? Now I'm reading a comment. They want more voluntary soldiers. Vilmaraga, it took me months to find a job. Hey Kelly, welcome. I did so many interviews even. I wish you luck, you know. It's not going to be easy in this environment, everybody. It's not going to be easy. It's a tough time out there, you know.
And I'm a person that loves sports and was a good athlete. And I understand sports really well, really well. And that wasn't a foul.
Nah, just Mel. I wasn't talking about me. I was talking about a person on Twitch. A chatter on Twitch. Vilmaraga on Twitch.
That wasn't even.
I was just reading a comment.
There was 2 guys running full speed that happened to crash into each other. You can't take your foot and properly place it on somebody else's foot when you're going. No, these were 2 great athletes.
That's okay.
That got tangled up.
That's very nice of you, though, Mel. Thank you.
And
if you do want to help in our Discord community, Mel, we have a channel called what is it called? Jobs Wanted. Wanted, needed, or help. You can post in that channel. You can go have a look in that channel, or you can volunteer your help to help people. To help people, you know, with CVs or interviews or whatever. Hey, Jujus.
This referee, who is a little bit suspect, if you check his, check his past. I don't want to say that because I don't like to create controversy, but
hey,
very
Dram.
suspect. If you'd like, I'll provide you with the past. He made a call that nobody could believe. Even people on the other side, they say, "Oh, we got lucky. Wow, that's." And it's very interesting. They say they don't show them in slow motion, and I never realized that. I never heard of that before. That they're not allowed to review in slow motion because.
Can I don't know if you guys have seen the actual incident. I don't know if you've seen the actual incident. It's fucking like it was such a huge foul. US red card foul. Like this was violent. Let me just see if I can find a picture of it rather than the full video because that may get flagged. Oh yeah, here we go. Here it is. There. Right there. I don't know if you guys can see it, but this is the foul. There, he steps on his leg. Oh, come on. Yeah, there we go. There we go. Hopefully you can see that. But it was pretty bad. It was a look up the foul because it was fucking terrible. It was a red card. It was a red card, everybody, for all intents and purposes. Did the US lose? Yeah, they got smoked. 4-1 by Belgium. It was so good. I was listening to the commentary while we were driving back. We drove back like 3.5 hours. I'm so tired. But I was listening to the commentary on the way back. Oh, it gave me energy just to watch, just to listen. Goal after goal after goal, just hearing the commentary about how shit the US players were playing. Finally, they played a team with something to give. When they played Turkey, they lost. And now against Belgium, a proper top 10 side, smoked.
It's so different because you'll take one little quarter of a second and you'll see that a hand is touching a neck or you see something. Whereas when you see it in fast motion, it will look like two guys collided, which is really what happened. They got sort of entangled. He didn't do anything wrong, and he's our best player or one of our best players, a very vital player. And he gave him a red card. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't think it meant much. Then
seems like stomping on someone's leg should be a penalty. It's a red card. That was a red card offense. Like, it's so clear that it was a red card offense. He missed the ball and he stomped on the guy's foot.
Started hearing that means he can't play in the next game, at least in the next game. I said, boy, that's a big, if it happened to another player, it would have been unfair. But when they take your best player or just about, they have some great players, and they say you can't play, that's very unfair. That's, it's one thing to penalize somebody for the game. But how do you penalize them for a game that hasn't been played yet? It's very unfair. You can't do that. So, yes, I asked for a review by FIFA. I spoke to a man who's highly respected, and by the way, whose level of respect has gone up tenfold.
You understand that?
And he was good before this started, but he really pushed it in this country. I'm the one that got them to do it. It was not Biden. Biden was asleep. I got him to do it. In fact, it was very sad because I got him to do it.
Morning, Calamity.
And if the progression was normal, I would have been retired now. The Democrats are saying, man, we should have just let him have his way. We would have had him.
Okay, this is the same mofo. This is the same mofo who told off Colin Kaepernick for bringing politics into sports. Bro, the President of the United States! The President of the United States just asked for a rule change. The sport is in disrepute now. I'm sorry. The sport is in disrepute.
gone. But I said, you know, the saddest thing is I got the Olympics and I got the World Cup. I tried to claim 250 years too, but that didn't work. They said, that one is what it is. No, I tried, but it didn't work. But wait. So I got him. I was so proud of it. And then I realized, you know, I wouldn't be president during that because I would have been out of office by that time. I felt badly. The beautiful thing about what I did is I ran. I never thought of it. And then all of a sudden I realized, you know, I just got the Olympics, and I totally got that myself. And I just got FIFA. I got that myself. We gave a little piece to Canada, gave a little piece to Mexico. I got that myself. And a lot of people helped, like that man right there, Kevin. A lot of people, you know that. We worked hard on that, and we got it. But
it's a painful time to be an American. Well, I think this is so, like, overdue. I think it should have been a painful time to be American the moment 1776 happened, to continue a fight that was aimed at continuing to keep slaves. You know? Yeah, it's been a painful few centuries not being American. That's so well put, Lava. Oh, shit. The fact that Americans are feeling pain now, somewhat, is like, why just now?
what we didn't know is how successful it was going to be. I didn't know. I said, Johnny, is anyone going to show up? Because, you know, we're not really, I think soccer's doing much better, but I couldn't imagine. If you would have said to any very smart of these, like people like this, that the numbers they're doing now would be happening, they've never seen anything like it. Think of it. Take the most successful Olympics or the most successful FIFA, and you look at what's happened. You look at the numbers for this in the United States, just compared to FIFA, and it's numerous times more. It's not like 10% more, 2% more, 5% more, which is more expected. It's like 4 times more successful than anything they've ever done. In fact, I said to Johnny, let's do it again next time. And he said, that would be hard. I said, no, you do it again. But at the same time, you give it to somebody else
welcome
the
X.
next one. I don't know. It's a little crazy idea. But all I did, I asked for a review because I didn't think it was a foul.
Kanavahi finally feeling a tiny fraction of the pain they have inflicted on the rest of the world for centuries. Yeah. Oh, man. Like, Europe feeling pain as well. Like, the West feeling some level of pain, it to me is just justice, guys. Like, it's moving the world towards justice. I mean, it's not enough, you know? Like, these leaders should be held to account. These countries should be paying reparations. It should. There's so much justice that needs to be served, but the pain is just beginning. I feel like the pain has just started.
And, you know, again, I'm good at this stuff. I didn't think.
By the way, on my trip, we visited Waitangi. We visited the grounds in Aotearoa. Oh,
incoming raid detected. Thank you, Raiders. Welcome. Hope you stick around and hit that follow button.
Yo, what up? What up, Jesus? Welcome. How are you? Oh my goodness. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. We are discussing the garbage fire. We are discussing the garbage fire that is America right now. It is hard to watch, but I just feel like Trump is driving the American imperialist machine over a cliff. And it's tough to watch, honestly. For Americans, I feel so bad for Americans who've been manipulated into this like American exceptionalist mindset that America can't do no wrong and, you know, all of these sorts of things. I feel really bad for you guys. But I feel worse for the people who've been at the end of your bombs. You know? It's a weird time. It's a weird time. I just think this FIFA thing is is one of those indicators of how America is going to deal with the situation of America's influence in the world sort of starting to take a big impact because of just biting off too much. And look, we've been discussing all of this. We are actively gaslighting our own citizens. It's hella strange. Yeah, it's crazy. On a positive note, guys. On a positive note, I've taken a couple of days off. I'm back today, and we went to a place called Waitangi in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Waitangi is the place where Te Tiriti o Waitangi was signed. The Treaty of Waitangi was signed. And that is one of the founding documents. There's also another document, He Whakaputanga, which was before that. But Te Tiriti o Waitangi is like the highly contested treaty between the Crown, the British Crown, and the indigenous people of Aotearoa, the Maori people. And we went there to the site where it was signed, where the British started meddling in Maori politics. Okay? It was so funny because we were taking a tour. We were in a group, and poor dude, the guy who was leading our group, he was Maori, and amazing guy. He was trying to keep it all good. He wasn't getting political at all. In fact, at one stage he said, "I'm not going to get political. I may lose my job if I do." But at that stage, after this guy finished talking about the different locations, I couldn't help. I got into my noisy immigrant mode. And we were surrounded by all of these British people too, right? Just the white people from America, British people. I could tell, like, these people were here to, some of them maybe genuinely. I turned into the noisy immigrant. And then I said to the guy and made sure everyone on that tour, I'm that guy, okay? I made sure everyone could hear what I was saying. And I said to him, you should not be concerned about being political. The British were looting other places at the same time too. And we know. I believe you. Oh, shit. You should have seen this lady, bro. Oh, my gosh. This lady, I have something to say about that. And I was like, bro, just be political, bro. Just say it. Just do it. I have something to say. I was like, bro. Oh, shit. This lady, no. I bet you she was going to say, but, we civilized the world. We did. We civilized the world. God damn it.
New follower detected.
That guy was like, bro, do you want me to lose my job? I was like, bro, just say it with your chest. And then I walked off. Woo! Woo!
Globalized intifada.
Let's go! Woo! Oh my gosh. People were like, People didn't know what to say. People didn't know what to say. They're just kind of looking around at each other and shit. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh.
So there we are.
Can I just say it was fun? It was good. It was a good trip. I bought a book about Tetsuritsuya Waitangi. I bought a book about the narrative of the Napuhi, which is an iwi, a tribe, a Maori tribe here. I bought a book. I'm going to be reading those books and learning, And just so we're clear about all of this, I despise, there is no way anyone should ever believe any narrative that the British tell about how they treated indigenous people. Don't believe it. Don't believe any of it, because we know what the British did all around the world. And at the same time, do you think they were treating indigenous people well in Aotearoa, New Zealand? Come on, folks. We're not that stupid, are we? We know what they did. So it was nice, It was nice to be on those hallowed grounds. Those beautiful, beautiful grounds, and say something to piss off the colonizers. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. Basically, I really wanted to play this song as well. I really wanted to play this chant. Shove your coronation up your ass. You can shove your coronation up your ass. You can shove your coronation. Shove your coronation. Shove your coronation up your ass. You can shove your coronation up your ass. You can shove your coronation up your ass. You can shove your coronation. Shove your coronation. Yeah, the only thing I was missing was like a speaker and playing this song. Like a little button just to play this at every little bit. You can shove your coronation up your arms. You can shove your coronation up your arms. Oh, beautiful. If you had a soundboard IRL, you might get in trouble. Oh, yeah. I should get one of those T-shirts with the buttons on it. I love the Lizzie's in a box chant to the tune of Baby Give It Up. Oh, yeah. Lizzie's in a box, Lizzie's in a box. Na 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 na. Lizzie's in a box. Are we talking about football or something? Yeah, we are. What? There's a new World War II movie? Oh my gosh. Fucking World War II movies. You can take your 4-1 loss. You can take your 4. Oh yeah. Actually, one of the best chants I've heard is a Manchester United chant whenever there's like a shit referee on the ground. Who's your father, referee? Who's your father, referee? Never had one, never knew one. You're a bastard, referee. I thought that chant, just the fact that it's so short and sweet, is to me one of the best chants. That's the Manchester United chant, by the way. I've been about Haaland, who used an Israeli player to score a goal. Oh yeah. Am I a Man U fan? Nah, I used to be, but then nah. Man U, I just felt dirty supporting Man U, it didn't feel good. Review was posted about it not long ago. Oh, the spin-off? Of the harrowing events? War is not a pretty... Sergeant Hane gets right and what it omits. I see. I'll take a look. Used to be, and then you came to your senses, yeah. Hope you had a great break. You didn't miss much. Oh my gosh, Des. Yeah. But let's get back into this. I will bring some pictures out tomorrow. I'll get the pictures out from my phone, and then we can have a look at some pictures I took on the site of Waitangi. It's really good. It's such a great place. If you visit Aotearoa, definitely go there. That's where, the British started doing their dumb shit.
I think it was a foul. I thought it was two great athletes that crashed into each other and got entangled. That was not a guy punching somebody in the face or anything that would be different. And I think it's a terrible, if they wouldn't allow a top player, maybe the best, maybe among the best players on the team to play, I think it would have had a big stain. And I related just that feel. I didn't tell him what to do. I can't tell him what to do, but and I don't.
Hey, by the way, I didn't. Hesup, how was your stream? What did you all talk about? Welcome. Thank you so much for the raid. What did all of you talk about? Hopefully, you had a great stream.
I believe he made the decision. I think it was a committee that made the decision, and they made the right decision because number one, it wasn't a foul, and you want to see a game with your best players. You don't want to say, "How would you feel if I took?" We take Messi out. Look, he ran into somebody. Or we took Ronaldo. Ronaldo, you bunked into somebody. We're going to take you out of a game. He's great. Or Harry Kane. Harry Kane, we're going to take you out of the game, Harry, because you happen to hit somebody a little bit harder than you can't do that. If you would have taken him out, I think it would have really.
This was always the fear. I'm telling you now, to the whole football world, this was always the fear about involving America in more than just, like a participation-esque manner. This was always the fear that they would come into this fucking thing and try to turn it into something it wasn't. Okay? This is the problem. This is the shit the world has to deal with America. It's like, just go away.
Sustained this incredible champion. We got to have our best players, and Belgium's got a great team, by the way. We got to have our best players, and they have to have their best. And if we win or we lose, it's fair. Otherwise, let's say we lost him and we lose the game. It would be a terrible thing. So I think they made a really brilliant decision. I think the referee's call was horrible. And nobody talks about that. They talk about the red card like it's fine. Nobody talks. The referee's decision to red card. I didn't know what the hell a red card was. When I found out, I said, you got to be kidding.
What do you mean you got to be kidding? Oh. See, this is the problem. America just doesn't care about rules like humanitarian law and, all of these sorts of international laws. This is why. Because they don't fucking know about them.
This guy just hands up. Okay, your best player is not going to play next week or in the next game. I said, wow, that's a lot of power. That's terrible. But then I looked at his past, and it wasn't so great. Okay.
Yeah, Mr. President, are you going to talk to the Belgian Prime Minister before the game?
I didn't think of it, but I would. He's a good man. I will tell you this. The people in Belgium, if they win the game, they can be very proud. If they would win the game with a player missing, it would have been a different feeling. You can't do that. And I'm very glad. All I did was ask for a review. I didn't say, you have to do this. This man is a smart, tough man, Gianni Infantino. He's a smart, tough man. and his stock has gone through the roof because what the job he's done has been great. And I feel we have to have all the best players on the field. You can't take the best players. Yep.
So, Mark, this is about US.
What is this like mad rambling, bro? What is this mad rambling? Holy shit. This is an American president. I don't know if you saw all the backlash from this. There was so much backlash about what this means. And for a sitting president to intervene in world sport like this, I think it has ruined this tournament. It has ruined this competition. Like, he has no clue what he's done here. You know, he has taken something so pure and so accessible and made it elite again. You know, made it about pay to win. This is, man, honestly, this, if this doesn't say capitalism, nothing else will. And then you have those stupid fucking hydration breaks.
Striker following Balogun.
Ruined.
Got a red card. President Trump has now intervened. He's spoken to Gianni Infantino. He's explained. In that extraordinary statement at the White House just a short time ago, he talked about how he is a person who loves sports. He says,
there are many Americans. Trump does not represent all of them. Well, American imperialism represents all of America, because whether it's Democrats or Republicans, American imperialism still exists. So I don't think that argument works anymore. You know, this whole Trump doesn't represent everybody. No, your government represents, whether, you know, Democrats represent half of the country, Republicans represent half of the country, and both parties represent American imperialism. The only difference I see between Trump and, say, Kamala Harris is, you know, one's blue, one's red.
I am a great athlete. But he admits he didn't know what a red card meant, but he was very happy that this guy didn't deserve one.
Yeah, do you know, I think it would have been probably more extraordinary had President Trump not inserted himself into the World Cup in a controversial way. Of course he has, and he's now explained it in quite some detail. Yes, he says he did call Gianni Infantino, who we know is a great friend of his. They've had a blossoming relationship over the course of the past 18 months or so. Infantino turning up at all sorts of Trump events. Indeed, presented Trump with the inaugural FIFA Peace Prize just a few months ago. President Trump says he saw the play. I understand sport really well, he said. That wasn't a foul. It was two great athletes that got tangled up together. And then he deflected towards the referee, who he said is a little bit suspect if you check his past. The referee is the Brazilian Rafael Klaus, who, yes, was involved in some corruption allegations in 2023, but no proof was ever found, nothing ever found against him. So the president there deflecting to unfounded allegations regarding the referee. Look, I think the point is, or the point that the president appears to be missing is, regardless of what you think of the referee's decision, the fact that the American president thought it was appropriate to insert himself.
I know, Schatzborg. I know that you're forced to choose, but you're not forced to choose, are you? You can choose not to choose. But the problem now is that you've been forced to choose for so long that the two-party system has become the only way for American elections to go. So, like, the two-party system it is actually the fault of the voters, because the voters thought that they could be, you know, this two-party system was the way democracy should work. And no one questioned it. No one has really questioned it.
Himself into the decision-making by FIFA. especially given that he has such an open and close relationship with the FIFA president. It seems to be completely lost on him that clearly does not pass the sniff test. I mean, if the American team were concerned, clearly as they were, about this decision, then it's up to the American Soccer Federation to appeal to FIFA, and not for the American president to insert himself into this in the way he did. So he didn't say a great deal more than that. I mean, he repeated a few things quite a few times. As you say, he says he didn't know what a red card was. He's admitting up front he doesn't really understand the rules of football, of soccer as he would call it. But when those rules were explained to him, he said that he thought clearly it shouldn't have been a red card. Also, there was an interesting moment just before the questions, Jane, where Senator Ted Cruz, a well-known Republican senator here in the United States, senator for Texas, said to the president,
yeah, but Chris, like the reason why Citizens United was created and was allowed, I guess, was enabled to be created is because the voters enabled it over decades of voting for two parties and not questioning the broken nature of just having two parties. Like, no one questioned it.
He said to the president, "Thank you for getting rid of that ridiculous red card." The president then had somewhat of a forced smile and said that was interesting. So almost well, certainly Ted Cruz seems to believe it was the president's call that prompted the change of heart by FIFA and the red card to be overturned.
Is it, Mark? Because political interference in football is grounds for teams to be banned. Nepal has been banned for effectively the same thing. I mean, could this not potentially lead to the USA being pulled out of the World Cup? Or would it not if it was not FIFA in charge?
Well, I was going to say, whose decision would that be? Would that be Gianni Infantino's decision? If it was to be his decision, or then I think the answer to that is no. I mean, it's no coincidence that Infantino has earned the nickname Sycophantino over the course of the past few months because of his attachment to the American president in the Oval Office so many times, turning up at events that have absolutely nothing to do with football. He has got a very close relationship with President Trump because they wanted, I guess, on the face of it, this World Cup to be the most successful ever. But with that comes this suggestion that something's not quite right here. The American president calls his pal who runs FIFA, and suddenly a controversial decision is overturned. It's certainly controversial, and I think it will run and run. By the way, the American president will be probably watching tonight's game in the air on the new Air Force One, which was, yes, controversially gifted to him by another country, by the government of Qatar.
This is like beyond a joke. Okay, this is what liberal media is saying about all of this. Liberal media, this is what it's saying, what it said. So this is Chris Hayes.
Good evening from New York. I'm Chris Hayes. Here are two truths about this political age we're living through. First, everything Donald Trump touches, everything is worse off for it.
Everything America touches. I think we need to broaden that horizon out. It's not just Donald Trump. Everything America touches turns to absolute shit.
Second, Donald Trump wants to touch everything. Every policy.
That's not just Donald Trump, though. That's America. America wants to touch everything and everyone. Trump just said it, but Americans have been grabbing the world by the pussy for a long time.
Every monument, every cultural touchstone.
Without consent.
Including sports, like the World Cup. The biggest soccer tournament, arguably the biggest sporting event on earth. The U.S. is host for the first time since 1994, and the American team is very good. Like genuinely excellent, and is going deep into the knockout rounds of the tournament, largely on the strength of their indisputable star, Brooklyn-born striker Folarin Balogun. But during a victory last week in which he scored a goal, Balogun was given a red card and ejected for a hard foul on a defender. The defender was actually challenging him, but that made him ineligible to play in tonight's elimination game. Now, lots of people argued that call was a bad one. I was sympathetic to that view. I thought it was a bad call. Ultimately, though, the ref made the call, and those are rules, and sometimes you do get bad calls. But what even is a rule in the era of Donald Trump? We now know, after Balogun's suspension, the President of the United States called the head of FIFA, the International Soccer Federation that puts on the World Cup, and after that call, the star U.S. player was suddenly eligible to play again. They cited some technical reason why, but this hasn't happened in like 20 or 30 years. His one-game suspension was nullified. The man who received the phone call, FIFA President Gianni Infantino, said in a statement the decision to reinstate Balogun went through proper channels, adding, quote, respect for... Sorry, I can't read this without laughing. Respect for independent institutions and the rule of law is what protects the integrity of our competitions and the credibility of FIFA at all times. Okay, well, you may recognize Infantino's name from a decade's worth of scandals and ethics investigations, or from this event in December when he presented Donald Trump, who was very salty he didn't win the Nobel Peace Prize, with the first ever FIFA Peace Prize. Didn't exist until that moment it was awarded to Trump. And FIFA Peace Prize winner Donald Trump wants you to know he did his part to influence the outcome of this World Cup.
I understand sports really well, really well.
Thank you, Rudy.
And that wasn't a foul. These were two great athletes that got tangled up. And
why is Rachel Maddow so? Yo, Morty. Why is Rachel Maddow so mad?
This referee.
Hey, Jennifer, welcome. Rudolph, thank you so much.
He's a little bit suspect. If you check his past, I don't want to say that because I don't like to create controversy, but very suspect. I said, boy, that's a big, if it happened to another player, it would have been unfair. But when they take your best player, or just about, they have some great players, and they say you can't play, that's very unfair. That's, it's one thing to penalize somebody for the game, but how do you penalize them for a game that hasn't been played yet? It's very unfair. You can't do that. So, yes, I asked for a review by FIFA.
It's perfect. All the elements of Trump, right? First of all, imagine Donald Trump, super soccer fan, soccer knower. Okay. And then you call yourself smart and you call the referee or judge or election official suspect and you make up something about, check his past. Then you make a phone call, just like he did, remember, to the Georgia Secretary of State. And to be honest, now that he's touched the World Cup, I think we're all worse off for it.
Yeah, because he probably touched it without consent.
And he is being viewed by competitors around the world as a stain on the global pastime.
I think it's an absolute disgrace. And Infantino, he should be ashamed of this, because I think for the sportsmanship of this game is in question here.
Where to draw the line? This is the question that I ask. I have no answer to that. Where does this end now? Do we appeal if a yellow card is not a yellow card?
That's a bad decision that will hurt the World Cup. And I feel also sorry for the United States, because if they win, it will always be that will hang in the balance.
Now, to be clear, I'm glad Balogun's going to play. This U.S. World Cup team, the men's national team, is really exciting. They're really good. I hope they go really far. Would be amazing if they won the whole thing. And to also...
Bro! This is the delusion. This is the delusion. They're a great team. What a joke. They lost to Turkey, bro. What the fuck? Oh my gosh. They lost to Turkey. What do you mean a great team that can go all the way? These fucking people didn't play a good team until Belgium. I'm not saying Turkey is bad, but they didn't play a good fucking team until Belgium, and they got eviscerated.
To be clear, FIFA is one of the most notoriously corrupt bodies in sports. Trump is the most corrupt president in American history. So together, it's just sort of they're made for each other. Perfect microcosm of everything that's wrong.
Just a quick check on wording. Trump is the most corrupt. He didn't say Trump was the only corrupt. There's a reason why he said Trump was the most corrupt, because to some degree, all American presidents have been pretty fucking corrupt.
With both American politics in its current degraded state and global sports in its also current degraded state. But here's the thing. If you go a little deeper, you hit the wildest part of the story, something I have just been savoring all weekend, which is that the player at the center of the storm, Folarin Balogun, he is essentially an accidental American.
What? Oh my... What? Fuck, I hate America, bro. Like, everything about America is just, it's disgusting.
My journey to team's a little bit unique. My mom always told me the story growing up, but I never really paid it any mind. She came to the US to visit her sister, and she had her return ticket, but then they said that she was too pregnant.
An accidental American.
So I was born in New York, but grew up in London.
Grew up in London. You hear that accent? That's not a Brooklyn accent. In other words, the best player on the U.S. team, the one that we're all hoping plays and kicks butt, is a United States citizen by virtue of one thing and one thing only, and that is having been born here. And being born here makes you a citizen, clear as day, in the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, passed after the Civil War, a constitutional right the Trump administration has tried tooth and nail to erase, and tried to erase at the Supreme Court just a week ago and failed. In fact, Flo Balogun's situation is precisely the same sort of very rare edge case that MAGA has absolutely lost their minds about in the wake of that loss at the Supreme Court, to the point they are now trying to call women.
Yeah, it said that it closed my live due to inactivity or something, but it's back now. I just turned it back on.
And like Balogun's mother, a scourge on American society.
They need to get moving and start deporting people as fast as possible, starting with birthing-aged women, the birthing persons, as the Democrats call it.
If a person comes here 9 months pregnant to go look around at some things, in a couple of weeks, that is the mother of a lifetime American citizen and a direct line into American cash and welfare for the rest of that child's life.
Look, if you're pregnant and you're from a...
Sorry, guys. It said because of inactivity, it had to shut off my live. I'm not sure. I don't know what happened. It just closed my TikTok live. Apologies, everybody. Welcome back.
Foreign nation. You know what? It's time for Congress to pass a law to say you can't come here.
I wonder if there's any examples out there of the unique advantages that birthright citizenship might confer on a society. I wonder if there's any benefits to having a country like that, where it's just clear as day, if you're born here, you're a citizen. Oh, look at that. Thank you, soccer gods. Here's one right there on the soccer pitch. Flo Balogun is American, and that is a wonderful thing. But there's a deeper point here, right? Not just about the accident of his birth being here and him being an American, right? For the same reason that international players make the NBA, for instance, a better basketball league, and MLB a better baseball league, and educational and work visas mean more brilliant PhDs and engineers and doctors and caretakers and people who do hundreds of jobs that are important that we rely on, from first responders to essential workers. Remember that category? Web developers here in America. Yeah. It's a simple, dumb, obvious point of what is truly exceptional about our nation. It used to be just like a cliche that we all just knew in school, but somehow has really been lost in so much of the immigration discourse. We are a nation of immigrants. We are a nation of birthright citizens, and that...
Yeah, Morty, just closed.
...rules. Pablo Torre is the host
hey,
of the Pulitzer-winning
Cham, welcome.
podcast. Pablo Torre finds out Dave Zarens is sports editor of The Nation, author of the upcoming book, The People's Historian, The Outsized Life of Howard Zinn, and they both joined me now. Dave, I want to start with you because I do think, I think about immigration in the context of sports all the time. I think as any sports fan has to, because you're constantly encountering it, and you're even seeing it
in the 14 games since Christian Pulisic broke out the Trump dance, he scored 1 goal and 3 assists with an average match rating of 6.6. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Christian Pulisic did the Trump dance once in a game.
New follower detected.
Yeah. And he's never been the same. Hey, Mayella, welcome. Kia ora, kia ora. Kia ora.
Nearly 2 decades.
It's good to see you.
in other teams as well, right? Like the globalized world we live in, the post-colonial universe we live in, where people have moved across oceans and across nations.
Daven Kinner, welcome.
Here's the rundown of the U.S. team, of America's U.S. soccer team.
I feel like that's one of those trick names. Daven Kinner. Van Kinner. Daven Kinner, thank you for the follow. If it's not a trick name, I'm sorry, but we've had a few people come in with crazy trick names.
6 of the 26 players in the team are foreign-born. 5 others were born to immigrant parents. 2 others have immigrant grandparents. Nearly half have dual nationality. Like, in that sense, this is kind of what American exceptionalism is all about.
Yeah, and also up to this point, this has been such a likable team. It's also a team of players who are explicit.
This has been such a likable team? What, you mean Pulisic, who did the Trump dance? No, bro. America's not been a likable team. What are you talking about? This is the delusion.
Political, some incredible Black American soccer players. One of them sports attached
been a while, yeah.
Richards of Tommy Smith and John Carlos. You love to see the tradition there, right there in his flesh, for goodness sakes. And it's a team itself. Like one of the players born in the United States, he said, "We are a team that looks like this country. We are a team that is this country." So they were actually leaning into this idea that I thought was very political in a lot of their statements against the agenda of this administration. And so to have Trump step in now, they've gone from this very likable team to a team now, whatever they do going forward is officially tainted in the eyes of the world. They don't deserve this, but this is the reality of what Trump touches. If they win against Belgium, everyone is going to say they won because it was truly rigged. The fix was in to have the great Balogun play. And if they lose, I'm telling you, people are going to say good riddance, and the stink of this is going to stay on U.S. soccer. The stink of this is going to stay on the U.S. men's national team, and that's actually going to harm soccer going forward. So this is actually much bigger than just this team.
Although I think that's that's well taken. I would say also, and Pablo, I'm curious to get your thoughts, is like the stink also adheres to FIFA, which just the stench is always wafting off FIFA. Like this is one of the most, preposterously sort of corrupt backroom deal kind of organizations in the entire world, sports, non-sports, whatever.
It's the apex predator of corruption, which is why this is such a match made in, some script writers' too on-the-nose version of heaven. I do want to point out that there is something to what Dave is saying, though, insofar as what this administration does over and over again is not merely wear sports as a skin suit, in which Donald Trump walks around like a Men in Black alien, not knowing what a red card is, but possibly being the nation's #1 sports fan, despite knowing nothing and admitting to as much, which is just insane. It drives me crazy, actually, how he gets to get away with that credibility despite demonstrating zero awareness of any of the basic rules.
Yeah.
Anna Roddy, we will lose, I'm afraid. Lose what, Anna?
That said, the other thing they do is frack sports. And what do I mean by that? I mean that they keep on drilling down into the basic, under the surface core of what makes sports special, thinking they can extract from it, not realizing what they're doing is jeopardizing the very thing that makes it special, and therefore endangering the whole ecosystem. Like, Chris, there's never been a year like this in sports, I dare say. We went from the Knicks winning a title and people out in the streets self-organizing to the World Cup, and in between there was the UFC thing at the White House. And every time I watch this story and I see Trump try to take his drill out and get money out of it, it reminds me that we're about to risk the thing that makes sports special, was a plausible integrity and a collective joy, and he ruins everything.
Yeah, and remember, he did it with the U.S. The hockey team, right? I mean, which was a great story and a great team that had a great win, and then he makes this stupid, gross, sexist joke, and a bunch of them kind of laugh.
So with what's happened with Platner, this is the kind of shit I'm seeing. A Harris Democrat, this is what they're saying. We want everyone about Trump. We want everyone about Platner. And we are warning everyone about El Sayed. Please listen. Oh my gosh. Libs are losing it. Libs are losing it. Oh, libs.
Laugh, maybe genuinely, maybe awkwardly, maybe
hey,
just
Jess,
what else
welcome.
do you do in that situation? But he introduced, he dropped his little bit of poison in the glass of water, and it just goes everywhere. And you've also got this decision is so sort of transparent, Dave. You've got Sepp Blatter, who again is a cartoon character, right, for his lifetime. Sepp Blatter coming out to say red cards are not overturned by political phone calls. They are overturned by rules, evidence, and independent bodies. If a U.S. president intervenes with a FIFA president, a player is suddenly cleared before a World Cup knockout match. The question is unavoidable. Quo vadis, FIFA? Football must never become a playground for political power. I mean, when you've got Sepp Blatter, Dave, calling you out for corruption.
When Sepp Blatter has the moral high ground, you have to reassess everything about your life at that point. I mean, Sepp Blatter, for those who don't know, when he was running FIFA, was accused of money laundering, was accused of being a party to criminal racketeering. I mean, and this is the person who says, I don't know, this Gianni Infantino, this ain't great. And you know what? He's right to do it, because for all of Sepp Blatter's horribleness, and believe me, whole books have been written about Sepp Blatter and the ways in which he corrupted the beautiful game. Gianni Infantino is someone who's had more trips to the White House than any member of the Democratic Party. But that's true in terms of official White House visits. And Gianni Infantino is also someone who's on the board of peace and has pledged to FIFA will spend hundreds of millions of dollars on soccer stadiums to build his vision of this Gaza Riviera. I mean, and he's someone, he wears the MAGA hat. He was at the inauguration. So, I mean, Infantino is somebody who's almost comically evil in this regard, especially when he steps forward and says, well, actually, we're doing this because of, the double secret probation rule in Article 24, subset C, and not because he got a call from Donald Trump saying, you're my lapdog, this is what you need to do.
I'm just happy this whole situation has worked itself out by America getting absolutely trounced today. I feel like America getting beaten like the way it did today was the only way justice in some way could be restored. So America getting absolutely smoked was good. I think it brought a little bit of balance back. Not enough. Because this investigation needs to happen. Infantino needs to be fired. FIFA needs to be restructured. One of the most corrupt organizations on the planet. Until then, there's really no justice. But fuck, man, all of this has, taught us how America really is meddling all the fucking time. America specifically, it's crazy just how hard America works to maintain control of everything. I see a bit, but football, I don't care, but I get it. Okay, guys, that's enough about football. America lost really badly. It was great. I listened to the whole thing. I watched a little bit of it, but so good. Belgium grabbed America by the pussy. It was consensual though, because it was in the round of 16. And now America has been knocked out. It's all good. It's all good. World's a better place today. Now we're going to move on to what's going on in the Middle East. Tehran gripped by anger and grief at funeral for former Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. I just want you to understand how huge this thing was. I've been away for a couple of days and a lot has happened. But this Khamenei funeral was massive. Massive. And I can't tell you.
Forward detected.
It just goes beyond imagination. It was so huge.
They came out in their millions for hours. The Supreme Leader's funeral cortege swarmed on the streets of Tehran by huge crowds. From the air, the funeral procession stretching through the capital for mile after mile. On the ground, among the enormous crowds, there was intense grief, but also anger. The familiar cry from Iranians, "Death to America." From people who now want revenge for their fallen leader. What is your message to President Trump today?
We kill you. We totally, all of us want to kill you.
You yellow.
Holy shit! Oh my gosh! What? Straight up. Oh my god, hold on. This is gonna be a soundbite on the soundboard.
What is your message to President Trump today?
We kill you. We totally, all of us want to kill you.
You yellow dog. Iran is your opponent, and we will take revenge for the blood of our supreme leader.
There was also a sense of...
But how do you really feel, ma'am? Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh!
Relief and pride. Iranians have made it through this war.
Proud of my people, my country, and proud to be here, to say it out loud to every people in the world, to see us standing here for our leader and for everything else.
Iran is used to huge...
That statement by that lady was like the most visceral thing I've heard. It was so straight up. I honestly don't know how to react to that. It's just, what's your message to Trump? Oh, she wasn't fornicating with arachnids, was she?
Funerals, but this was on a scale and intensity we haven't seen here for decades. Iran's leaders hope that this sends a resounding message to their enemies that America and Israel's war was futile, and that by assassinating Ali Khamenei, they have only strengthened his government, not toppled it, by galvanizing this kind of public support and sympathy. The Iranians may now be negotiating with America over how to end the war for good. But there was little patience for any idea of compromise among the faithful here.
I have a deep sorrow, but I'm here to tell the world that we are not afraid of America. We are not afraid of Trump. Look at the red flags. Look at the red flags. The colors, the blood. We are here to say that we want revenge for our martyred Supreme Leader.
It was not only killing a political leader, but a very high religious and spiritual authority. No, the war is not over.
This woman spoke for many we've met. Donald Trump, she says, knows he's been beaten.
My message is that you picked a fight with Iran, and that's the biggest mistake of your life. Iranians never lose, and I would like to tell you that you should stop here before it causes more embarrassment for you.
There are those who did not take part today in this deeply divided country. Some who protested on these streets against the government and had been killed for it before the war. But this was a massive show of support for the government from millions of Iranians that seems only to have grown because of the war and the assassination that started it. Dominic Waghorn, Sky News, Tehran.
There is a longer version here. I want to show you guys the breaking points one, because I think you'll hear the exact sentiment of what needs to be heard. Like, these other media outlets are going to make it very pro-West in some way. The breaking points one is good.
Massive gatherings in Tehran over the weekend for the funeral of the Supreme Leader Ali Khamenei. And let's put this New York Times headline up on the screen. They went with this headline: mourners chant revenge at funeral prayers for Iran's slain Supreme Leader. Just reading a little bit from the report, tens of thousands of mourners, including senior Iranian officials, packed Tehran on Sunday for funeral prayers for the slain Supreme Leader as crowds chanted calls for revenge. Conspicuously absent was his son and successor, Mojtaba Khamenei, who has not been seen in public since succeeding his father, who was killed at the onset of the war. And these crowds were rolling and massive. Let's go ahead and take a listen to the scene in Tehran over the weekend. So that was the infamous Death to America chant. And Ryan, just what's your reaction off the bat here to what we saw?
Funny thing is, nobody's mentioning to Israel. Nobody's mentioning to Israel. What do you mean? Nobody's mentioning to Israel. Not sure what you mean, Anna. Millions of people, yeah. Oh, wow. Do they also do UFC fights? This is I think a demonstration of how badly America lost this. America does not have the upper hand in the Strait of Hormuz situation. America does not have the upper hand in this whole situation. There is no leverage left. And this is the kind of thing that's become very clear that Donald Trump's administration isn't admitting. But the fact that they're still there in millions, and what America probably did was make the support structure much stronger for this government.
So, I mean, this was massive support, obviously, for the Supreme Leader, and no Mojtaba Khamenei. Also, though, a pretty clear sign of strength from the IRGC's perspective months into this operation, where apparently the IRGC was decimated.
Yeah, we were told that the Iranians would, just like the Iraqis, would greet us with, candies and flowers and would celebrate our assassination of Khamenei. Instead, you have one of the largest gatherings of people in the world.
And after one of the largest slaughterings of Iranians in January.
Right, which is right.
Which is why we thought they were weak.
Right.
And it would be easy for the Kurds to come in and people would overthrow them. This is what it looks like now.
Right, and the Iranians have said that they believe at least 3,000. They put out the names of at least 3,000 people, security forces and protesters who were killed, or rioters, or whatever you want to. There were some armed insurgents as well.
All intelligence has been thrown out. Loyalists have been installed, and in any situation, it's just how can Trump profit? So he just played the markets. Yeah.
So at least 3,000. That is a lot of people. You see these bizarre numbers of 30,000 to 60, 75,000 floated by Trump and other people, no evidence that it's anywhere near that. Still, even 3,000 is a lot. And yeah, the Israelis and the Americans were convinced that the Iranian people were, desperate for regime change.
Yeah.
Maybe they wanted the Shah, the Shah's son, who knows who they wanted back in. And a big crowd does not necessarily mean 90% support.
No, not at all.
You could still have.
That's not borne out by any of the polling that people have been able to ascertain, or that's not an easy thing to do. But I think I've heard Sohrab Ahmari obviously make the point that it's not like the IRGC has the support of a majority of Iranians, but opposition to America has support of a majority of Iranians.
We have united the country in that. I've seen some people salty at the Death to America chant and the Death to Israel chant, but not as much saltiness as you might have seen in the past. I think people are starting to approach this with a little bit of common sense. Well, for one thing, what people might not know, it translates to Death to America, but if you heard the rhythm of it, it's just kind of a nice chant. And it really means kind of
nice chant.
They use it as it has the nice rhythm to it, and it really means down with, that would be a probably more kind of accurate cultural translation. Down with America, down with Israel. That aside, Trump has described this as Pearl Harbor, right? He compared it to Pearl Harbor, right? That because it was this surprise attack in the middle of the negotiations. We are still deeply angry in the United States about Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor, they attacked.
Yeah, and that's the thing about when you learn about how the Brits and how colonizers, how they dehumanized and made indigenous populations around the world look like the aggressive party. They always mistranslated, even if they knew. They mistranslate words to make the indigenous population seem, however they want them to seem. Like these sorts of instances, it's very common for the colonizer / the Western imperialist structure to do that to indigenous people.
The Navy in Hawaii.
Trump had a veteran from Pearl Harbor on stage at the 4th of July. Did you see this?
Oh, I missed that.
It was incredible. Yeah.
I'm sure it was. I'm sure it was. But, they attacked, they surprise attacked a military target. We thought it was dastardly because it was a sneak attack. Sneak attacks are dastardly. It was on a military target. Imagine if the Japanese had also hit a girls' school in Hawaii and killed, 150 plus students and teachers, mostly young girls, and then also killed, FDR, killed the head of the military, killed the vice president, killed. How do you think we would feel at that point? The chant. I think people in the U.S. are actually much more kind of aware of the context this time. And so they see that chant, they're like, yeah, okay, you know what? What we did was really bad. And I get it.
Well, there are realist consequences to war, obviously, political consequences.
And being reckless in how you carry it out.
Now, I do think when you see Death to America chants, even if it's translated into something that's down with, I think most Americans look at that and say, well, we definitely don't want them to have a nuclear weapon. It's just a question of the means to the end. And that's, I think, for a lot of people, when you look at our record of the last 20 years, look at Iraq right now. Is Saddam Hussein there? No. Is it a much friendlier country to the United States, significantly friendlier country to the United States? No, it created a power vacuum that created ISIS. And so the idea that you were going to have a war that wasn't...
See, this is quite a liberal take. This is quite a liberal take by this lady. And to me, the two sort of ugly ducklings of breaking points are this lady and Saagar, because she is a lib and she thinks that America can still dictate to people who can have weapons and who can't. Like, she thinks that it's okay. She thinks that she, as an American, can make the decision for what other people can have. That is her sort of ingrained bias. Ingrained bias towards American exceptionalism. This is what liberalism is. Liberalism is a fake empathy, but ultimately leaning towards American imperialism. Not just leaning, but very much on the side of American imperialism. Sagar is like a conservative weirdo. I don't know. That guy's. I don't understand Sagar at all. That guy his politics is just so weird.
Significant with a ground invasion and lasted for months and months that actually truly decapitated the regime. I think a lot of people were obviously skeptical of that, as they should have been skeptical of that.
Yeah.
No, and this is a show of solidarity for some chunk of the country, united against the United States. Not that that's particularly surprising to anybody, but if you had showed scenes of this before, or as, let's say after we had, on February 28th, if people showed you these scenes, like you could fast forward and do like a time travel jump, and it's like, this is what Iran is going to look like in July, and the war, by the way, is going to be over.
This is where gas
But we're going to have a ceasefire.
Yeah. We're going to be getting nothing.
Like, what are we doing?
Right.
What are we doing?
And to your point about nuclear weapons, and people do need to, including myself, need to remember this. We've done some polling on this question about Iran having a nuclear weapon, and the American people are very much opposed to the idea of Iran having a nuclear weapon.
Mm-hmm.
How much they're willing to do to, see that outcome to the end is up for debate. But if you ask them, it's like 80+%.
I want to show you, okay? So this conversation here is good, but I think there is a video I want to show you that I watched a few days ago, and I think it highlights actually what America has done here is most probably accelerated Iran getting to a nuclear weapon. And let me just play that one for you. It is a podcast style video, so it's a little long, but I think very informative and an important watch for all of us. I watched the whole thing, so I know about it, but I think you should definitely go over this right now because of this subject. Give me 1 sec, guys. I'm almost there. Where is it? Sorry, folks. Just give me 1 sec. Let me just find this. Ah, yes, I found it.
When Barack Obama signed his nuclear...
So just before we sort of climb into this one, I want you to understand that this is going to be a very pro-West take. A very pro sort of America, very... a very... Yeah, very pro-Western view. This is a Carnegie Endowment video, but I think an important listen because it does go through some great points.
Nuclear deal with Iran, I was a U.S. intelligence analyst charged with monitoring the aftermath. We all know what happened next. Donald Trump tore up that deal and went to war to get a better one. Now, Iran's nuclear program is again the subject of high-stakes negotiations that the whole world is watching. But if I learned anything
we can do
from
it at
being inside this
1.25.
thing, it's that the details really matter. You simply can't rely on politicians or headlines to understand anything as complex and important as Iran's path to a bomb. For the real story, I turn to James Acton. He's a trained theoretical physicist who's spent decades tracking Iran's nuclear program and knows the history of this saga inside and out. James walked me step by step through precisely what remains of Iran's nuclear program and what paths this negotiation could take. You're going to hear us nerd out on underground tunnels and enrichment levels and grand strategy, but I won't hide the ball here. James thinks the US lost this war, and that Iran has a 50-50 chance of detonating a nuclear weapon in the next 3 years. In other words, Iran could still go nuclear on Donald Trump's watch. I'm John Bateman, and this is The World Unpacked. James Acton, welcome to The World Unpacked.
Thanks so much for having me.
The topic today is Iran's nuclear program. This is something that has vexed U.S. presidents, world leaders for 25 years now. You've studied it for how long?
This is the issue that got me into the field.
Okay.
I've been doing nuclear policy for over 20 years now, and a large part of that is non-proliferation, originally about preventing Iran from getting the bomb.
And here we are again, still trying to prevent Iran from getting a bomb. I should also say for viewers, you are a theoretical physicist by training. One of the reasons I wanted to have you on today is Iran's nuclear program has been in the news consistently for a long time, but a lot of what people hear about this program is from the mouths of politicians and political leaders or their opponents, who also have a political bent to their characterizations of the programs. But I think what you can offer us today is a grounded, independent assessment of where Iran is, where it was, where it could be. And obviously the reason that we're talking about this is we just fought a big war that was in part over Iran's nuclear program. How did that go?
To be very blunt, the United States just lost a war to Iran. And I'm sure we're going to unpack in more detail exactly why and how we lost that war to Iran.
More carpet.
But it turns out wars have a scorecard. You know, just like World Cup's going on at the moment, there is a scorecard. There is a clear winner and loser because who scored the most goals. In the case of a war, you can basically tell who won by the post-war agreement, or by the end of war agreement, I should say, which in this case is the so-called Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding, or as it kind of might waggishly be called, the Versailles Treaty, given that Trump signed it in Versailles. Anybody listening, I know it's not a treaty, so please don't at me. It's a memorandum of understanding. But if you look at the Memorandum of Understanding, it's clearly a lot better for Iran than for the United States.
In what ways?
The most fundamental points are that Iran, if this Memorandum of Understanding is ever implemented in full, will get an enormous source of revenue from that. Mm-hmm. And all the United States got in return, it got the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, which is obviously something that was opened before the war. And there is a vague, fairly unspecific commitment to talk about Iran's nuclear program. So you can tell who won the war because at the end of the day, this agreement is much closer to Iranian interests than it is to U.S. interests.
Yeah, part of what the MOU, this Memorandum of Understanding, illustrates.
So this guy on the left, this dude in the Patagonia fucking thing, not the suit guy, the other guy. Hey, Colette, welcome. Yes, I was away for a couple of days. How are you? Yeah, so this guy here in the Patagonia top, he is coping very hard at the moment. So
Straits is there's a lot of issues on the table regarding this war.
Take note.
There's the Strait of Hormuz. There's the nuclear program. President Trump and Netanyahu originally had other goals as well, to potentially replace the regime in Iran. You could argue that they effected a leadership change at least, but not a regime change. Iran's conventional military, its missiles, which is crucial for the nuclear question, and its proxies. Right now, there are active negotiations ongoing between Washington and Tehran. How much of this is focused on the nuclear issue right now? And what are the main sources of contention there?
Mm-hmm. Well, one of the interesting things about the Memorandum of Understanding is what it doesn't contain. Mm-hmm. You know, the previous deal we reached with Iran, the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, was criticized because it didn't do anything about terrorism. It didn't do anything about proxies.
This is Obama's nuclear deal.
Correct. It didn't do anything about Iran's ballistic missile program. The Security Council resolution that enacted the deal did have a little bit on ballistic missiles, but not much. And there was a huge amount of criticism of the Obama-era deal because it didn't deal with all of this stuff. And lo and behold, one of the chief critics of that deal, President Trump, has now made a deal with Iran that doesn't include any of these other issues either.
It's so true. It's so true. Hey, Katie, welcome.
And at the end of the day, that's because it's very clear Iran is simply not willing to negotiate on them, and the US has sensibly chosen to prioritize. So, there's actually not a ton we know about the negotiations that have just happened in Switzerland. They mostly appear to have concerned the Strait of Hormuz and reopening that. The Iranians...
I'm sorry, what did you guys want to reopen?
Reopening the Strait of Hormuz.
Okay.
There was no discussion of the nuclear program. The US has said there was some discussion of the nuclear program. The vice president has said that Iran has agreed to allow inspections. The Iranians have pushed back about that and says there's been no agreement at all on anything related to the nuclear program. But I think, there are three baskets of issues that the US and Iran are likely to discuss. Reopening the Strait of Hormuz, the nuclear program, and financial relief for Iran.
Why did this guy say Hormuz as well?
The president has conceded that Iran has got the right now to a ballistic missile program. There's, Iranians are not willing to discuss proxies, regional terrorism. And, that is 10 years on from the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the Obama deal. Many of the critics have started to realize that in practice, you just can't achieve everything you want. And now the US is in a much weaker position vis-a-vis Iran, having just lost a war.
So what is Iran's
Are they
nuclear
Spanish?
program? I mean, that term, it contains multitudes, right? I mean, there's the nuclear program, which contains both a civilian and a military element. And then there's the military element specifically, which is just a subcomponent of that. And then probably we could break that down further to help people understand the constituent parts that could enable Iran to build a nuclear weapon if it chose to do so. And then presumably those parts are what we'd want to target in a deal. Could you just break down those parts?
So I think a useful place to start here is to ask the question, well, how do you build a nuclear weapon? If you want to go and build a nuclear weapon in your garage, which I do not encourage, it's illegal. How would you go about doing that? Well, the first thing you need is fissile material. You need the...
Bro's like, hey, I'm going to give you the recipe here, but don't do it at home, okay? But here's the recipe.
Metal that forms the explosive element of a nuclear weapon, the thing that actually releases the energy. And your two choices there are highly enriched uranium or plutonium. And Iran went down the highly enriched uranium route. So you need a way of producing highly enriched uranium. And that involves digging uranium ore out of the ground, purifying that uranium ore, converting it into a material called uranium hexafluoride, which is a gas, or can be made easily into a gas, I should say. And then you enrich it. And in enrichment, if you think back to high school chemistry, you may have vaguely...
Why aren't they more worried about Izzy having nukes? Because Israel is an ally of the West. Israel is the West. Why would the West care if the West has nukes?
You heard of these things called isotopes, which are like different forms of the same element. What you want to do is you want to concentrate uranium in the isotope that's useful for blowing stuff up. That's uranium-235, and the process of concentrating it, of throwing away the less useful forms of uranium to concentrate it in the more useful form is called enrichment. And you do that, one of the ways of doing that is in centrifuges, which are these devices that spin very, very quickly. So, if you're thinking about using a salad spinner at home, for example, that's a centrifuge. And the heavy stuff, the lettuce leaves get pushed towards the outside of that salad spinner. And that's basically...
Hey, talking about centrifuges, I found this gadget where if you put like your milk and my coffee powder thing that I get them in sachets. There's this incredible New Zealand company called Avalanche, and it's like a pack of coffee mix. And it's like a Nespresso type thing. And you put the cap on top of it. So this was at the home we were staying at. And you close it and you mix it. The fucking thing mixes everything. A centrifuge, a coffee mixing centrifuge. It mixes the whole thing, and it's like the most evenly mixed coffee I've ever had. And the house we were in had this thing. I was blown away. Best coffees I've had in years.
Very simply, what happens in a
segue. Apologies.
Gaseous centrifuge.
So let me just pause you.
Oh, the coffee brand? It's called Avalanche. They do like little sachets. They do little sachets of coffee.
Here for a second. Where does Iran get its uranium ore? Do they mine that domestically?
They mine that domestically.
Okay. And then these centrifuges. Is Iran designing and manufacturing these things indigenously?
So it is now. Originally, it got help from other countries, particularly off the infamous AQ Khan network.
This is the Pakistani nuclear scientist.
Yeah. But now Iran appears to be pretty much self-sufficient with centrifuge design and manufacture. I'm sure there are some imports, but they're not like any. But the key difficult technologies that Iran does now appear to have mastered indigenously. The thing about enrichment technology is you can use it for civilian purposes as well. You can use it to produce fuel for a nuclear reactor. Now, for nuclear reactor fuel, you might enrich to, say, 5% of the useful isotope, whereas for a bomb, you might enrich to, say, 90% of the useful isotope. But it's the same basic technology, you just enrich it further. And slightly paradoxically, the more you enrich stuff, the easier it becomes to enrich further. So, people are very concerned that Iran has, say, material enriched to 60%, because once you've reached 60%, it's technically very quick to go to 90%. Surprisingly, perhaps, going from uranium you dig out the ground, which is just under 1%, to 60% takes almost all the effort compared to going up to 90%.
So what do we know about the amount of uranium that Iran has enriched to or close to weapons grade level and its still existing capacity to enrich? Obviously, Iran's nuclear program, its fuel stockpiles, and its manufacturing facilities were attacked
Rashi,
by
welcome.
Iran.
Is that a new kafir? It's very nice. No, it's not new. Ghada sent it over a while ago. I've been wearing it for a while, Katie.
Israel and the United States, not only in this last war, but in the previous war last year. So where is all of this stuff? What does it still have, and what does it no longer have?
So prior to the war, and here we're talking about last summer's war, June 25, we have a very good idea how much nuclear material Iran had at that point, because it was being regularly inspected by the IAEA, the International Atomic Energy Agency. And the most worrying material in Iran, the material enriched to 60%. Iran, if I remember rightly, had roughly 200 kilos, so a bit over 400 pounds of that material, which is, enough for how much material goes into a weapon is an uncertain quantity, but let's say a handful of nuclear weapons, or if it's enriched further. A lot of that material appears to have been at a site called Isfahan, in tunnels that were very deep underground, 100, 200 meters underground. There has been a lot of reporting that material was buried under rubble. That is very misleading. People have this idea, I think, that these tunnels were bombed, they collapsed. There are some cylinders of this material buried under hundreds of tons of rubble.
And Trump famously uses this phrase nuclear dust,
Yes.
which brings to mind the idea that the enriched material was in some sort of complete solid state and then was literally just blown apart by explosives into tiny pieces that maybe aren't useful anymore.
Exactly. That is completely the wrong impression to have for the material at Isfahan. We, the United States, to my knowledge, in neither war directly tried to collapse those tunnels. They're simply too deep. Even the huge US bunker busters that were used at other sites just would not have destroyed these tunnels at Isfahan. And more than that, Iran filled those tunnel entrances up before last year's war. And we bombed the tunnel entrances. But as a colleague of mine put it, it's like pounding sand. Like literally, it's pounding sand. So entombed is a better word to have than buried, because actually these tunnels were not collapsed. Large quantities of highly enriched uranium are sitting totally unsquashed in these tunnels. And then, between the wars, Iran opened some of those tunnel entrances up. We've heard this ridiculous idea that Iran lacks the technology to access the uranium. Iran dug these tunnels. The idea that it lacks the technology to reopen tunnels that it buried is a not credible claim, especially because we've seen from satellite imagery that Iran did in fact open these tunnels up and then close them again before this war.
So, James, when you're saying their uranium seems to have been in these tunnels and we believe Iran has accessed these tunnels, what's the level of confidence that you as an independent analyst outside government can have in where this uranium is? And, imagining, which we can't know, the awesome powers of the U.S. intelligence community and the Israeli intelligence community, which has deeply penetrated Iran's nuclear apparatus over many, many years, assassinating nuclear scientists with great precision, finding and removing from the country.
This is the bit, where he's like he gets all drunk on Western power, this guy, Patagonia dude.
These troves of nuclear archives.
The crazy Western supremacy dude, I'm going to call the Patagonia dude, okay?
If you had this kind of panopticon, which at times it seems like we've had, how confident can we be that we actually know where this stuff is? Because this could become crucial for the final negotiations, right?
Yeah. So this material was regularly inspected by the International Atomic Energy Agency prior to the war. So I think we have a very good picture of where this material was prior to the war. A lot of this information the IAEA makes public in its regular reports. It seems fairly likely that the US and Israel and many other state parties, I think, get some of the information that's not published in the reports. Mm-hmm. So I think we can have a pretty good sense of where the material was before the war. I think we can have a pretty good sense that Iran has opened these tunnels based on satellite imagery. The US and Israel seem pretty confident that most of this material is still, most if not all of the material is still there, which speaks to your point about the quality of their intelligence. But the answer is I think there has to be some uncertainty. Like, I don't know what raw intelligence we have. I mean, the Director General of the IAEA, Grossi, has also said, the IAEA, I mean, I'm paraphrasing here slightly, but he basically said the IAEA has a pretty good idea where it is, but unless we go and look, we won't know for certain. So, the fact that the US and Israel seem to be fairly confident that a lot of the material is still at Isfahan, gives me confidence that it's still there. But, people make intelligence mistakes. This is not at all an easy thing to do. So I think we should recognize some uncertainty.
I should just say, listening to you, I'm surprised to hear that the tunnels actually have been reopened, like in between the two wars. I mean, that seems itself to introduce significant uncertainty. Yeah, we're not talking about like vast volumes of material, right? I mean, like 200 kilos of uranium is a few scuba tanks full, basically, is what this looks like. And this is why I'm reluctant to say I'm confident it's all there. At the end of the day, you would have to know exactly what intelligence sources Israel are.
Follower detected.
No sleep Z's. Hello. No sleep Z's. Hi. Welcome. Yeah, this is the way they're talking about it, it's like some alien fucking, we're talking about Iranians here, guys. Iranians. These guys are talking about it with zero thought about so many different things. But that's not why we're listening to this. We're listening to this about the detail. I don't want you to get too frustrated at the white supremacist coded language. Let's not get too deeply embedded in that. Let's just look for the information in this, because I think ultimately the core of this is about how badly America misjudged the situation.
The US have. I'm skeptical that by satellite imagery alone one could verify that the material has not been removed from those tunnels. But US and Israeli intelligence may have many sources of information that are not satellite imagery.
Which, as a former intel officer myself, and actually my beat was Iran, and I spent time looking at the Iran nuclear program, but I could just say generally, a war could scramble one's intelligence in either direction. On the one hand, you might have on-the-ground sources that are killed or compromised during the war. Communications patterns may change. Maybe you were monitoring General so-and-so. That was someone we took out in a strike.
Oh, reality. So Reality's Lava on Twitch says, LOL, I just watched the YouTube highlights of the USA-Belgium match today. One comment under the video, the US spends around $1 trillion a year on defense. I'm not seeing any here. Oh, I love it! I love Bring out the jokes, folks! Bring out the jokes! Everybody bring out the jokes. Oh my gosh, X is cooking as well. It's great. It's awesome.
You no longer getting their phone conversations. On the other hand, the chaos unleashed by a war and the need for the Iranian regime to then scramble to communicate or share information with, the deputy now that the general was killed, that could open up new pathways for intelligence. So it's actually just hard to know what is known and unknown right now.
Yeah, and look, there is some extent to which logical reasoning here is helpful, and I don't want to, one can clearly not reason one's way through intelligence, but Iran knew from last summer's war that the US did not have the capability to destroy the tunnels at Isfahan. So Iran has a pretty big incentive to leave material in a place that it knows the US struggles to access. Now, is that proof all of the material is still there? Of course it's not. But it's another factor to consider.
Yeah.
But it also brings me on to the issue of why it's such a problem. The IAEA inspectors now are very restricted in where they can go in Iran.
By the way, you know how I talk about the world still being colonized today through proxy institutions like the IMF and World Bank and the WTO? the IAEA is another agency that falls into this umbrella. The International Atomic Energy Agency is the same model, built by the West to keep tabs on the global South. And that's how it has always been. And all of these organizations are built to just surveil the global South and not let the global South reach a particular stage in its evolution. It's all about benefiting the West.
You know, having inspectors on the ground who can literally weigh cylinders of uranium, take tiny samples from those cylinders to measure the enrichment level inside it, and hence to with incredible precision know precisely how much highly enriched uranium has and where that is incredibly valuable information. And so after last summer's war, the IAEA was restricted only to a handful of sites in Iran that aren't of much proliferation concern. And this is another reason why, you know, to the extent this was a war fought for counter-proliferation, and, you know, as you've alluded to, US war aims in this war are exceptionally unclear. The US had a bunch of different war aims, and they varied depending on the day of the week and the mood of the speaker and who that person was. But, you know, to the extent that this was a war of non-proliferation, we've left Iran with a bunch of highly enriched uranium that it can access.
Another comment, same video, deep cut. Belgium are 2 weeks away from building weapons of mass destruction. Oh, I love it. I love it. I honestly think Trump might sanction Belgium here. Hey, Practical
we
Magic,
have much
welcome.
less visibility on the ground.
Hey, Assam.
We have Iran almost certainly had a large stockpile of centrifuge components that I've seen very little evidence that they were destroyed, almost certainly because they were kept deep underground.
So these are what you might put together to build new centrifuges to continue to enrich. So I guess we can take out the centrifuges, but the centrifuges themselves have a full supply chain, right? You've got the components that are used to assemble them, and then you've got the machines that manufacture the components, and you've got the engineers and the scientists who operate and design the machines.
Yeah, so you have centrifuge production plants, which are like, you know, factories for producing centrifuge components. Some of those were attacked and destroyed successfully. I don't have a good sense on how much of an infrastructure Iran still has for producing centrifuge components. But the centrifuge components themselves almost certainly survived the war. They were being monitored when the Obama-era JCPOA was enforced. They're not being monitored. They ceased to be monitored in, I forget the exact date, but kind of some point in Trump 1 administration. Those were almost certainly kept underground or at secret sites. I've seen very little evidence that they were destroyed. The US and Israel have killed a bunch of Iranian scientists, but there's many more that haven't been killed. And so when you look at everything that Iran has, underground facilities that can't be reached, highly enriched uranium, expertise, centrifuge components, there is a lot of the ingredients there to produce highly enriched uranium.
Which is, as you established earlier, is one of the things that you need to build a nuclear weapon.
And there's a point here that, again, I think the administration has said something that is true but misleading. There were a number of three really centrifuge enrichment.
Iran drew with Belgium. Yeah, I honestly think Iran was hard done by in this World Cup. I wouldn't even be surprised if Trump is ready to go to this level to get like someone's red card taken away and American players. I wouldn't be surprised if he plotted against Iran's exit early, you know, with Infantino. It's plausible.
Plants that were destroyed last summer's war, Fordo and two at Natanz, which had huge numbers of centrifuges in. And the administration has made the argument that it's going to take many years for Iran to build back a program of its previous scale. That is true. But it's misleading because Iran does not need a program anywhere near that size to produce the bomb.
Why not?
Because the number of centrifuges it had was designed to look like a civilian program. You need much more enrichment capacity to produce fuel for a nuclear reactor than fuel for a nuclear bomb. So the tens of thousands of centrifuges that Iran, I'm certainly had space for tens of thousands. I don't remember how many were operating before the war, but it was a number that was many times larger than was needed to build the bomb. So it is simultaneously true that it would take Iran many years to build back a program of its previous size, and that a program of that size is not necessary to build the bomb.
You're
So that's the interesting thing for me is going from 20 to 60 is easier than 60 to 90. No. Apparently going from 60 to 90 is very easy. Like a couple of weeks. Centrifuges under the bed, yeah.
listening to The World Unpacked with John Bateman, where we dive deep into pressing global issues and make sense of the big forces shaping our world. Now, have you learned anything so far that intrigued or surprised you? Let me know in the comments, or just give us a like. And if you want to hear more of my conversations with the world's most informed aspects of the administration's defense of this MOU, the kind of phase one of the U.S.-Iran negotiations, is J.D. Vance has said that he is confident that Iran won't be able to rebuild back their nuclear program because they would need a tremendous amount of money to do so. He said this on a bunch of different podcasts and news shows. Of course, the MOU sets the conditions for Iran to get a bunch of money. The specific number in there is $300 billion. It's left somewhat vague where this number will be coming from. Maybe not the United States, but...
Isn't 90 weapons grade, my close brush?
Maybe U.S. partners, but the U.S. is kind of guaranteeing or saying that it would help bring this money to bear. So the administration is saying almost in the same breath that what Iran needs to rebuild is this thing that is in fact coming to them under this MOU.
What you're saying is exactly true, though I also disagree with the premise. The first thing about money is...
What you're saying is exactly true, although I disagree with the premise. What does that mean, man? What the fuck? Just say you don't agree with the guy. Hey, Ladybird, welcome.
It's not just about the $300 billion, which I think is this kind of economic assistance package that I think is largely aspirational. In the immediate future, Iran gets, its oil sector has been completely unsanctioned. It's going to get billions of dollars a month in oil revenue. And it's got assets unfrozen, even before you get onto the $300 billion. So, you know, that $300 billion, I think, is aspirational. I doubt it'll ever happen. But Iran really is getting, in the near future, already getting a large amount of money in, like billions of dollars a month. But secondly, I also just don't think it's true that countries need vast amounts of money to build nuclear weapons. And it's not that it's easy or cheap, but it's, if you decide that is your major priority, you sacrifice...
It would be funny if he said, I disagree with everything you just said, and I also disagree with the premise. Yeah. Brilliant. It was so... You're right, Chatter. It was so British. It was so British.
Other national goals for that. I mean, you know, there was a famous saying in Pakistan, for example, that we will eat grass in order to build nuclear weapons. You know, North Korea...
You know, I want to learn. The thing I've spent a little bit of time understanding North Korea's sort of nuclear program, etc. But I haven't actually looked into how Pakistan and India got their nuclear weapons. I really want to know. I'm gonna see if I can learn more about that.
Is a country that is often considered, you know, a very poor country historically we thought of having a poor science and technology sector. But at the end of the day, the regime decided that nuclear weapons were vital for their survival, and it prioritized that. And now North Korea has a nuclear weapon.
Yeah, you know, eating grass to build nukes. I mean, it's an evocative metaphor. You could say that is a tidy summation of Iran's national strategy in a way. I mean, just to be clear, you know, they haven't built nukes. They haven't made the political decision to build nukes. No one has assessed that they have. But in broad strokes, orienting their relationship with the world and their governing structure to maximize what they view as security over and above the economic needs, the freedom, and the flourishing of their people.
Oh, fuck off, bro. This is what I mean. This is the bullshit white supremacist rhetoric. You know, it's like, oh, they're prioritizing weapons and bombs and not feeding their people. Why is that, bro? Why is that? Is it because there are crippling fucking sanctions on Iran? Is it because America has meddled in their politics for fucking ever? Only white supremacy can paint this picture without any thought. Because this guy truly believes that he is on the morally correct side.
That is the Iranian strategy in a nutshell.
And I think that's exactly right. And I would qualify, I think we have to have an open mind at this point about whether the new leader in Iran will or has already made a decision that ultimately Iran has to get the bomb. I would entirely agree with the characterization that under the previous Ayatollah, I think the best interpretation of the evidence was Iran wanted the capability to build nukes at short notice, but had not yet made that decision to build them. After what has happened, including, the killing of the previous Ayatollah, and now his son is the new Ayatollah, it is not at all clear to me that that modicum of restraint that Iran previously showed is still going to be there today. I don't know. We have to wait for actual evidence for that. But I think it's no longer safe to make the assumption that Iran will content itself with the option of building the bomb rather than the actual bomb.
Small correction, if I could, James. I actually chafe when people call Mojtaba Khamenei an Ayatollah. I think this is what we're used to describing Iran's leaders as. It's actually a religious credential that he does not have.
I stand corrected.
No, it's interesting.
The supreme leader. I should refer to him as the supreme leader.
We've had 3 supreme leaders in Iran, and each one has been a downgrade in terms of their clerical qualifications. So Mojtaba is one level below an Ayatollah, which itself indicates the degradation of the sort of governing premise of the supreme leadership and the guardianship of the jurisprudence, that it would be a learned Islamic scholar. Now it's kind of degraded into this, quasi-hereditary security state.
But it's an important clarification. It's well
nitpicking,
taken.
But listen, I'm with a theoretical physicist, so I feel like I am entitled to pick a few nits. Okay, so what you're describing has often been referred to as a threshold nuclear capability. The idea that you may not have nukes, but you have the ability to quickly get nukes if you want them. Sometimes this is referred to as breakout or sprint to a bomb. We've heard differing numbers thrown out over the years about breakout timelines. How long would it take for Iran to sprint to a weapon? Could it be detected? Amidst the chaotic aftermath of now 2 wars and a massive series of assaults on Iran and its nuclear program, do we have an estimate of Iran's capability to break out today, or is it just a jump ball?
One way of thinking about this is to first ask the question, if Iranian leaders were to make the decision tomorrow to go hell for leather for the bomb, and if there were no interference by the United States or others, how long would it take? And then to think about how effective interference might be. So, I think if Iran were guaranteed that nobody would bomb the program, nobody would interfere with the program, I would imagine they could produce a bomb in less than a year at this point, possibly substantially less than a year. The process of building new centrifuges, facilities, enriching would be relatively quick at this point. And then, then there's uncertainty about, a nuclear weapon is not just a lump of highly enriched uranium. You need the high explosives to trigger it. You need all of the other surrounding components and electronics. A lot of that you can do in parallel. The highly enriched uranium production and the so-called weaponization side, you can do at the same time at different locations until the very final step of actually fabricating the weapon and assembling the core.
All of this they could, they couldn't. I think Iran has always had the capability to make this bomb, but they haven't, because they know that if they do, or if they go towards the bomb and they start preparing to make it, America will bomb them. So they agreed with America, signed a deal and said, okay, we will not make a nuclear weapon. And they didn't. But America kept bombing them anyway. Okay? So now Iran's calculus might be, well, if we make the bomb or we don't make the bomb, they're going to bomb us anyway. So what do you think is going to happen? You can't keep doing this, America. You can't keep fucking bombing people. You can't.
So, my guess is it would take Iran less than a year.
And just to dig in on a couple of those pieces. So with the enriched uranium, we've established that Iran has mastered the technology and the industrial capacity to enrich uranium to weapons grade. We know they can do that. Okay. What about the weaponization part? Has Iran similarly mastered that technology and it's just a matter of them following through on a path that they've already laid out? Or is there still some technology risk there of them needing to experiment and learn in order to achieve this?
My honest answer to that is I don't know. We know the Israelis stole the Iranian nuclear archive that demonstrated work on weaponization. But how close they are to having a working design, how close they are to manufacturing the individual components, or being able to manufacture some of these non-nuclear components, we simply don't know. At least, I don't know. What I would say, though, big picture here, is the United States, if you go back to the Manhattan Project,
Do they have to build it? Can't they steal it or buy it from somebody just like Israel did? Hey, Rinks, welcome. How did my grandma voice text? I'm sorry, I don't have my glasses. Turkey and Pakistan will really shake things up. They can do all sorts. But Anna, like, I don't think they want to. That's the thing. I don't think Iran has ever wanted to get it. They have abided by everything that the West has imposed on them. You know, they took they have taken the sanctions on the chin. They have not built bombs that can reach the West. All of these sorts of things. I think the JCPOA, they followed it. They let the IAEA people in to see. But America went, okay, so they've given us a concession. How do we bomb them even more and get more concessions from them? How do we overthrow their government to get our hands on the oil? You know, so this is what America has done over and over again, and you can see it with the way they're continuing the genocide in Gaza, in Lebanon. If you give America a concession, they will use that concession to try and get a bigger concession. And it's like they just keep going until they get full capitulation or try to get full capitulation and surrender. And at any point, if you are not capitulating or surrendering, they'll just continue killing your people. So the only reason why they didn't continue to mass murder Iranians was because there was a real economic downside this time. But usually they won't even care. They didn't see economic downsides before. But this time there was a real economic downside. And they had to stop. But otherwise they wouldn't have stopped. They would not have stopped.
I forget the exact number, but it's something like 90% of the resources went into fissile material production. It may even have been as high as 95%. Los Alamos, the place that actually designed the bomb, although it's the most famous part of the program, was in many ways the cheap part of the program. And, American scientists did it in the 1940s without, when computer was a job title, not a machine. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's trivial to design a nuclear weapon, because it's not. But countries with weaker science and technology bases than Iran have done so.
Who are you thinking of?
Pakistan and North Korea.
Okay.
And frankly, India, when India did it. You can argue that any Iran's science and technology base today, it knows an awful lot more science and technology than the United States did in 1945 or than Russia did in 1949.
Yeah, because time has marched forward. Right. They have all these scientific papers. They have the internet. To my understanding, the schematic principles that you need to understand behind how a nuclear bomb works, these are well known and fairly simple. The challenge then is an engineering challenge, right? Of just specifically getting the uranium into the right shape, the explosives into the right shape. Right?
I want to qualify that a little bit. Without getting massively over technical about this, if you surround a lump of highly enriched uranium by a sphere of high explosives, it will not detonate. There are so-called instabilities in the way
that... Hey, Cheryl.
The lump of metal won't compress perfectly symmetrically, which is really what you want. So the very basic physical principles of a nuclear weapon are well understood, but there are
engineering challenges.
The physics of actually making a bomb go off is not totally straightforward, and it's not just an engineering challenge either. There is some pretty complex physics you need to understand. But at the end of the day, I think Iran could, if it doesn't have a working design today, there's not much doubt in my mind it could get there with it.
I have a feeling Iran cracked this a long time ago, man. I think Iran knows. I think Iran could build a bomb if it truly wanted to. I don't think they want to build a bomb. I truly don't think they wanted to.
Within a year. So then you have the question about so firstly, that is if the supreme leader were to give the decision tomorrow to build the bomb, go hell for leather, and there was no fear of interference. That decision might be made. We don't know whether it's going to be made, and I'm not assuming that it's yet been made. But secondly, there's two things then Iran has to worry about. Firstly, is being bombed or attacked while it's doing the program. And secondly, it then has to worry about doing the program in a way that makes it more immune to attack, which potentially slows it down.
So here's what I'm thinking, okay? And this is all live. We're spitballing. So just run with me on this. Iran has been bombed and attacked. It withstood that. It had its entire leadership cadre, from the principal political and clerical leader of the country on down to most of its top national security leaders slaughtered. Many sites were bombed and destroyed. Its conventional military severely damaged. Nevertheless, as you stated earlier, and as others have stated, it seems like the regime is in a pretty good state right now and feels that they got the better of the United States. So one could argue that they could race to a bomb, and if the United States and Israel use the same playbook again, that's actually not fundamentally threatening to Iran. What do you make of that? In other words, would we need to send in ground troops in order to prevent a nuclear breakout?
It seems unlikely to me that everything Iran needs to build a bomb is at one single site right now. So, if Iran wants to enrich uranium, it has to set up a new centrifuge facility. It has to move its existing stockpile of highly enriched uranium to that facility. While those things are on the surface being transported, they're potentially vulnerable. Because as you've made the point already, Iran has to worry that its nuclear program has been penetrated. The US and Israel showed a significant ability to hunt down mobile missiles, for example, while they were moving. So the huge challenge the US and Israel have is that when the program is deep underground, it's very, very hard to attack it. But if Iran has to move stuff around the country to set up that facility again, it's potentially vulnerable while it's on those components and materials and people are potentially vulnerable while they're on the surface. Now, at the end of the day, I think for both technical and political reasons,
hey, Mia!
I think if Iran wants the bomb at this point, it's going to get it. I think our best chance of halting Iranian proliferation is now in the rearview mirror. And I think, I think this is a bad position to be in. But I also think that if Iran wants to build the bomb at this point, it has to be very careful to do it in a way that minimizes its vulnerability, and that potentially causes it to slow down and be more cautious.
Why couldn't they reconstitute the entire enrichment program within the deep tunnels of Isfahan? Is that a possibility?
Of course it is, but they can only do that without moving stuff on the surface. If everything they need is in Isfahan at the moment, if every centrifuge component, all of the people they need, all of the different power converters and, devices for heating up cylinders of uranium, right? If everything right there is in Isfahan at the moment, yes, they could. But it seems more likely to me, based on the limited information that's available, that different elements of the program are dispersed right now.
I guess what I would do if I were the Iranians is just do some small tests.
Welcome back.
Right? See if I might open a tunnel entrance, see if it gets bombed, see if I might move in one centrifuge, see if it gets bombed.
Exactly. But the point is that's slowing you down. Right? That's going to be slower than just ordering 1,000 centrifuges in one go to be moved for Isfahan. So this is, this came out of our conversation about how long would it take Iran. And my point is, if there's no interference, I'm pretty confident they could do it in less than a year. But if there's interference and they're doing it very gradually and step by step and testing it in the way that you argue, that does lengthen the timeline somewhat. Now, I don't say this as to kind of tell people there's nothing to worry about. I am deeply concerned that within the next few years, Iran is going to test a nuclear weapon. I think, our ability to stop that after waging an unsuccessful war is now severely curtailed. But I also want to acknowledge that, the worst case analysis of how long it would take is probably unrealistic, because Iran is likely to want to do this program in a way that doesn't cause more attacks on materials and people and equipment while they are vulnerable on the surface.
And that makes sense, particularly with the fissile material. It's such a small amount that Iran has labored to create. They're going to want to be very careful and cautious with the treatment of that. I guess I'll just say, thinking about all of this, the war has tested some of my assumptions about what it would mean to interdict a sprint to the bomb. I mean, if interdiction means Iran sprints, the U.S. attacks, and the goal of the attack is to dissuade Iran from continuing to sprint, it just seems to me like that dissuasion is severely undermined by the notion that we've already hit them almost as hard as we could with airstrikes, and the regime has withstood. So then maybe the theory shifts from a future interdiction would not be a dissuasion operation, but it would need to literally physically stop and disable the Iranian nuclear program. But I guess we've also learned that there's just tunnels we can't bomb.
Right. No, this is...
So are we now in a point where a ground assault is now what is the ineliminable kind of backstop that we would have if Iran sprinted?
The short answer to all of that is yes. I mean, this is part of the reason why I argue we lost the war, is because if our goal was to prevent Iran from getting the bomb now or in the future, I think for all of the reasons you say, we have demonstrated that on balance, we're really going to struggle to permanently destroy the program without a massive ground presence. Now, look, I use the word on balance there because the US and Israeli demonstrated ability to attack movements.
This is so much cope. It's brilliant in a way because it shows you the thinking of these pundits right now is they've completely given up. They're in a mode of loss. You know, they're starting to admit that they've lost en masse. Like, to me, that's the biggest takeout from this conversation is it's not, you know, where are we at? It's we've lost. Now what?
Moving targets while they're on the surface ought to induce some caution in Iran into how it moves the pieces of its nuclear program together. But on balance, the fact that we have now demonstrated that there are very deep tunnels we can't destroy, I think is a very, the threat of military action was always more potent than the reality of military action, because we did demonstrate a lot of capability, but we also demonstrated serious weaknesses and lacuna. The other thing here is about our tolerance for pain, and this is something that I really wanted to bring up. You know, many American proponents of the war talk about the war as a video game, that the goal was who could score the most points. You know, we killed the former Supreme Leader Khamenei. That's 100,000 points.
Right.
We bombed Fordo, 25,000
Yeah,
points.
Pete Hegseth put out some kind of infographic, which is basically like kill count, target destroyed, very gamified.
Right. Very, very, also the way we, talked in Vietnam.
Famously,
The Admiral Cooper's briefings felt like listening to, MACV, the military assistance command Vietnam. That's the wrong way to think about war. War is not decided, or at least this war wasn't decided, by who scored the most points by destroying the other's target. Fundamentally, it depended on the infliction of pain. We inflicted a massive amount of pain on Iran, but Iran ultimately could tolerate that pain. The pain that Iran inflicted on us through the closure of the Strait of Hormuz was totally politically untenable within the United States. Iran inflicted on us, through oil prices, more pain than the US body politic could bear. And that Iran's demonstrated ability and willingness to close the Strait of Hormuz meant that we were totally unwilling to go back to fighting. President Trump said this repeatedly, right? The war is over. We're not going back to fighting while negotiations were ongoing. And that hands Iran all the leverage. Because if Iran is willing to go back to fighting if it doesn't like an agreement, but we're not willing to go back to fighting, Iran has much more leverage than we do.
I will
that's
say
fundamentally why this agreement was good for Iranian interests and not good for ours, is because Iran had the leverage.
Trump does change his mind a lot. He previously attacked Iran.
Yeah, this is very nerding out on war, isn't it? Like, these guys are obviously analysts. Well, one of them. The other guy is just.
So there we are.
The other guy is just, making up the numbers. But honestly, man, the way they talk about large-scale violence is so jarring in so many ways.
In the midst of diplomacy, could you envision a world in which the current negotiations ongoing over the nuclear program don't work out and Trump strikes again?
Well, so I can. But let me, which I think would be a really bad idea for all the reasons we've discussed. But let me, in the previous negotiations, let me distinguish between Iran believing that the United States would not go back to war and Iran being correct in that belief. While negotiations were ongoing, we couldn't know whether or not Iran was correct in its belief. In the event, it turned out it was correct in that belief, right? It drove a very hard bargain. The US accepted it. It did not go back to war. But what matters in terms of leverage is not whether you're actually willing to go back to war. It's whether your adversary believes you're willing to go back to war. And I think it was very clear that Iran believed, correctly as it turns out, but Iran believed that the United States wasn't willing to go back to war, and that allowed it to drive a very, very hard bargain. And, looking forward, I think part of the problem is Trump keeps on threatening to do things, bomb Iran to the Stone Age, attack Kharg Island, attack the oil infrastructure, that he then doesn't live up to. And that undermines his credibility dealing with Iran, and it hands Iran all of the leverage. Now, to be clear, when you make a totally gross and immoral threat like bombing Iran back to the Stone Age, I'm very glad Trump doesn't live up to that. Not living up to that is better than living up to it and enhancing your credibility. But the point I'm making here generally is that I think Iran does not view Trump's threats to go back to war as credible. And that is a huge problem in negotiations going forward.
Probably what the administration's defenders would say is that some of these
I don't know what to do, though, Matt. Like, what is
have at times seemed to move along talks with Iran. It's hard for me to gauge that from the outside, but Trump will sometimes make an extreme threat, and then the next day say, "I'm not doing it because actually that threat precipitated a concession." But the fact it happened
so quickly, even when there weren't talks going on, strongly suggests to me that actually it wasn't those threats that moved it. It was Trump made a threat, the oil markets got jittery, and then he dialed it back again.
Yeah. Is he negotiating with Iran or with the oil markets or with the voters?
Yeah,
all of the above.
I'll do that.
Okay, so let's now go to the talks. I won't ask you to predict the outcome. I think that's difficult to do. I am curious what you think a good deal might look like. What are the basic contours of a deal where, maybe we could only even get this deal if we had way more leverage than we do now, but just a really, really good deal that everyone could go home and say, wow, we've kind of taken care of this threat, or we feel confident that it's managed.
Look, we need to distinguish.
Are we still 3 weeks from being out of oil? No. I don't think so.
Here between the best deal possible and the best possible deal, right? The best possible deal in some idealized world would be Iran gives up its entire nuclear program, right? It gives up absolutely everything. It's not even allowed to keep an impressionistic portrait of a centrifuge.
China bailed everyone out. You mean by not buying from the global energy market, by using its own reserves?
In the real world, we can't achieve that, right? So the real question is, given where we are now, given the lack of credibility of our position, given the fact we fought a failing war, given the US sensitivity to oil prices.
Why the hell do the colonizers think they should get anything out of this deal? Yeah, tell me about it, Crowley. This is how the mindset of white supremacy works. It's like a loss just means, keep trying. Outcome will be war, will continue after what few months,
What's actually a decent deal on the nuclear program?
Hey, the Queen of Somalia, welcome.
And my view is specific and permissive. And what I mean by that is I am willing to trade at this point.
So there we are.
Allowing Iran to do stuff we would rather Iran doesn't do, right? Enrichment, for example. I mean, enrichment being the absolute key one here. The president wants a prolonged suspension of enrichment, which in principle is great. I'm not against that.
Yeah.
The problem is, I think if Iran were ever to accept a prolonged suspension of enrichment, which I don't believe it will, the price for that might be very limited inspections. The price for that might be not defining what's actually prohibited and what's actually allowed. And by the way, this is not just a hypothetical thing. There was a bunch of negotiations between Britain, France, Germany, and Iran back in 2003, 2004. And all of that fell apart on the vagueness of the agreements. The two sides couldn't reach compromise on how to define enrichment.
Hey, Jen.
And they didn't define enrichment. And then Iran said, well, we're allowed
Kia ora.
to build centrifuges so long as we don't enrich with them. And and Britain, France, and Germany said, you're not allowed to build centrifuges. And then the entire agreement fell apart. So I think what I want to see is an agreement that's incredibly specific, lots of detailed language about what's allowed and what's not allowed and how we're going to verify it. And I would try to sell Iran on that by being more permissive, by not forcing a suspension on enrichment if in reality you're never going to get that, or you're only going to get it in return for very limited verification. And I think we have to be generous in terms of long-term sanctions relief here on Iran. So, I'm trying to start from the position not of what would we want in an ideal world, but what are the remaining policy levers at our disposal.
So during the negotiation of Obama's nuclear agreement, the JCPOA, a yardstick that was often held up to judge the agreement is this breakout timeline.
Yeah.
If memory serves, and you can correct me on this, there was a goal or a belief that agreement resulted in something like a 1 year or more breakout time.
Yes.
Okay. Is that still the best way for us to judge the substantive components of the next Iran agreement if we come to one? Should we be measuring that? And if so, can we still get 12 months?
So there's two ways to build the bomb, or rather there's two kind of key pathways you have to worry about, breakout and sneak out. Breakout is using your declared facilities, those that are being inspected, to produce,
my gosh,
in Iran's case, highly enriched uranium for a bomb. And the goal of the JCPOA was to ensure that if Iran were to use its declared facilities to build the bomb, it would take at least a year, if not longer, to produce sufficient highly enriched uranium. The other thing you have to worry about is building secret facilities that aren't inspected, and that's called sneak out. And although the Obama administration sold the JCPOA on breakout, which was a perfectly, it's important, you want that, the JCPOA also contained a load of provisions to prevent sneak out. And I personally worry a lot more about sneak out than breakout.
And this would be something like the ability to inspect parts of the Iranian country other than those declared facilities, for example.
Correct. And this is where it gets very complicated in terms of the rights that the IAEA had even before the JCPOA, and then the additional provisions the JCPOA made in terms of access rights, in terms of provision of information, all of this kind of stuff. So the first thing is, I think any agreement realistically is not going to be as good as the JCPOA because we have less leverage than we did back then. Back in 2015, there was an international coalition, including...
The crazy thing is, Trump is not getting anywhere close to the JCPOA anymore. Like, whatever deal that comes out of this moment is going to be so much worse than the JCPOA for America. But hey, man, like, this is what American imperialism is, right? Like, it tries to negotiate through violence. And it didn't work this time. It's worked it's worked mostly before with very little impact to American to the American economy. But now it's not good. They're not going to get a deal like the JCPOA. Trump is going to try and make it sound better, but it's not going to be.
Including Russia and China, who were willing to sanction Iran and lift those sanctions if a good enough deal was reached. And that gave us a tremendous amount of leverage. Now, most of the world is not doing sanctions on Iran any longer. They think our attack on Iran was wrong and illegitimate. The Russians and Chinese are now much closer to Iran. We just have less leverage than we did back then.
So would it be...
Spencer, in Aotearoa, yes, New Zealand.
Fair to say then that if the JCPOA achieved, we believed, a 12-month breakout timeline, and I don't know, maybe a 12-month sneak-out timeline, it's kind of unclear, but just a 12-month timeline, your expectation is that this deal, if we come to one, will either have to tolerate a shorter breakout timeline or more holes in the inspection regime, i.e. less confidence in what that timeline is, or more sanctions relief or some other compromise.
The breakout time calculations have changed a lot since the JCPOA. What the JCPOA did, the Obama-era deal, was it allowed Iran to keep hundreds of centrifuges, but it placed very strict limits on the amount of enriched uranium that Iran could have and the level of that enrichment. In some sense, we're in an exact opposite situation now. Iran has a lot of highly enriched uranium that's enriched to quite high levels, but is limited in terms of how many centrifuges it has because we just destroyed a bunch of them. So in terms of breakout time, I still think the year-long goal makes sense, but I'm skeptical we can reach it. But I'm more worried about sneak out. Like, what really worries me today in Iran is that Iran is building a centrifuge facility at a site that we have no idea about, using centrifuge components that haven't been inspected or monitored for years. So if it were up to me, I would emphasize preventing...
Yeah, Guy, the thing is, it's not about advanced weapons or anything, because it doesn't matter how many missiles you have. It really doesn't. When it comes to fighting a war with ammunition, America has all of the bombs. It's the thing that won Iran the war was the Strait of Hormuz. Like, that's it. It is the thing that did it, because it doesn't matter how many bombs Iran can launch. If it can't inflict major economic damage, it won't matter. The fact that Iran could hold out for so long and cause major global economic damage is why this war ended in the way it did. It was the Strait. It was the Strait of Hormuz, the Strait of Hormuz.
Sneak out in negotiations more than breakout. Now, you have to deal with both. You can't ignore the possibility of breakout. But in a world in which the US only has limited political capital, I would focus, I would use that capital more to deal with sneak out than breakout.
I think that's definitely one of my big takeaways from this conversation, James, is to successfully manage the Iranian nuclear threat through a negotiated settlement. You've got to tackle like 8 or 9.
I can't play that, Mike Lowsbrush. I'll get a copyright.
9 different things at the same time. You've got to tackle the enrichment. You've got to tackle the existing stockpile. You've got to tackle this sneak out threat and other things. And then you're trying to get the most concessions you can with the greatest specificity that you can, with the greatest verification that you can, with the least sanctions relief and the most contingent sanctions relief that you can. And basically you can't do everything, right? Especially in an environment in which, in your view, the U.S. is not the side with the greatest leverage. And so I guess what we can expect is compromises in some of these areas.
So yes to most of that. I mean, there was a reason the JCPOA was 159 pages, right? It was precisely because there was so much to worry about, including, by the way, things Iran wanted, like sanctions relief, that was spelled out in enormous detail in the JCPOA, but as was precisely what Iran could have in terms of nuclear equipment and processes, precisely how that would be inspected. Like, there was a reason the JCPOA was...
Poker, I don't know, but the next 60-day, like the 60-day, I think they took like a 2-week break or something. But I don't know exactly how many days are left in the 60-day negotiation period, but we'll find out more in the next 2 to 3 weeks, I think.
With such a comprehensive agreement. In some sense, the amount of sanctions relief Iran gets has already been agreed to in the Memorandum of Understanding. The leverage we have is how quickly Iran gets that relief. We have agreed in principle to lift every sanction on Iran, in addition to giving Iran $300 billion of economic aid, at least in part of a coalition. The one leverage we have there is how quickly we supply that relief. Now, maybe the US announces it doesn't go back, it's going to renounce the Memorandum of Understanding at some point, that it wasn't a good deal and that it wants to revise the terms of the Memorandum of Understanding. But I think, there's a problem doing that.
No, the reason why they could control the Strait of Hormuz is because they didn't need modernized weapons. They don't need modernized weapons to control the Strait. They don't need modernized weapons. They just need any sort of missile. That's the huge advantage Iran has. It's not about modern weapons. It's the fact that Iran has a structure that's decentralized and can fight an asymmetric war for a long period of time. That is the reason why. Because there's no easy way to stop that. They have a decentralized structure. And that's the problem. They also have many layers of leadership. So they can replace leaders very quickly.
In principle, there's 2 possible outcomes, really, right?
Hey,
One
Robbie.
is compromise, as you say, that enables both sides to walk away with a permanent deal that each one can live with. The other, and unfortunately more likely outcome, is a collapse of diplomacy, right? In which ultimately, for a whole bunch of reasons,
Let's look at another example. Let's look at Lebanon, for example. Hezbollah has a lot of weapons. Hezbollah has a lot of modern weaponry too, like tank busters. They have drones. They have a whole bunch of stuff. But Hezbollah, with all of those missiles, guns, and bombs, whatever, drones, they couldn't cause enough economic damage to the world, even with those weapons. Even if they wanted to, they couldn't cause much economic damage to the world. What Iran did have a weapon of mass destruction, and that was the Strait of Hormuz. The fact that they could have weapons that are accessible to many countries around the world and block such an important waterway, 20% of the world's energy is why Iran won.
we are ultimately not willing to give the Iranians what they want. They're ultimately not willing to give us what we want. Domestic internal politics in both countries, the belief that on each side that the other side is not going to abide by the deal or will walk away from the deal. There's so many potential fears and concerns that could spoil it. I do think the most likely outcome is that diplomacy at some point simply falls apart. And there is no final agreement as foreseen by the Memorandum of Understanding.
And does that mean we go back to fighting, or does that mean maybe just nothing happens and we kind of muddle along in a state of frozen conflict?
For people listening, I kind of shrugged very visibly while John was asking that question. I mean, look, who knows is the answer to that one. My great fear is that we're now locked into a state of recurrent war with Iran until Iran gets the bomb and then we give up. People talk euphemistically about mowing the grass. This was always, part of my argument against military action was if you do it, you then have to go back and do it again and again and again. And, I predicted that before the June war, which now happened twice. So I feel this prediction is unfortunately on the way to being borne out.
Yeah. And so these recurrent attacks against foreign threats, it's sometimes called mowing the grass, meaning
the NRA style. What's that guy's name? The dude, Clive, some shit. Clint Eastwood. Clint Eastwood from my cold dead Hormuzzi.
You just during the summertime you got to mow the grass every couple of weeks, and this is Israel's basically national security strategy.
Now,
Walaikum assalam, seven
lots of
sign.
different grasses.
And I think this is a terrible idea because A, there's bits of the program we can't reach. Too deep. It's buried too deep. B, it presumes we're always going to have good enough intelligence to do it. And C, it presumes there will be sufficient domestic support to keep doing that. And I think all three of these assumptions are very highly questionable.
Actor.
So, I don't necessarily imagine that if and when diplomacy collapses, and I should be very clear here, as much as I'm concerned about have issues with the Memorandum of Understanding, I think it is a very bad document. Going back to war would be very, very, very bad. And walking away and just washing our hands of the situation would be very, very bad. So I do think our best option at this point, we're in a bad position. We don't have any good options, but the least bad option is to try to pursue this Memorandum of Understanding, to negotiate with Iran, to try to reach some form of agreement in good faith. I just don't think that's going to happen. I just don't believe we will succeed in doing that. And then I worry a lot that, we will be in a Cold War punctuated by periodic hot wars that will end when a nuclear weapon detonates in Iran as a test.
Which would be the worst possible scenario, that Iran both gets and demonstrates a nuclear weapon. And we would have had all this destruction and failed efforts at diplomacy along the way. What do you think the odds are of that?
Well, I think that is the most likely pathway we're on.
I mean, that's a remarkable statement.
I've said previously, there are costs for losing a war, right? There's costs for bombing a leader, for bombing a country, killing its leader, and failing to permanently destroy its nuclear program. We embarked on an incredibly high-risk, consequential course of action that has failed. And there are consequences for that. And I think we're going to be paying for these consequences.
Yeah.
So, no, but I want to answer the specific question.
I love that these pundits have finally come to that realization, everybody. To me, this is progress. They've gone from denial to acceptance. They've gone through grief. They've gone through blame. They've gone through now they're accepting the fact that Iran has grabbed them by the Hormuzzi. Iran has grabbed the planet by its Hormuzzi. Now they're accepting it. They finally realized it. Slowly, it's going to start seeping into mainstream media. Slowly.
Question you asked me, I had predicted previously that, one useful thing is to ask yourself, over what time period do you think there's a 50-50 chance Iran would detonate a nuclear weapon? And I'd previously said 3 years, and I wouldn't change that calculation now.
And this would be as a demonstration, of course.
It would be a test. It would be, to my mind, probably underground somewhere in the desert. You make the desert shake, and you demonstrate you have the ability to build a nuke.
That's remarkable in that this may very well happen during Trump's presidency.
I think that's eminently possible.
So the worst case scenario is pretty bleak. Iran gets a nuke.
Why is that bleak, bro? See, this is what I mean. What is bleak? What is bleak about a country like Iran being left the fuck alone, man. Just leave them alone. Give the people of Iran an opportunity to make their own fucking choices. Instead of like constantly bombing them, bombing their leaders, and then saying to the Iranian people, flood the streets while we bomb the streets. Fuck.
It happens very quickly. And then this is the nightmare that everyone's trying to avoid. I guess what I'm hearing from you is that the best case scenario isn't that great either. The best case scenario is a lesser version of the JCPOA in which Iran remains a threshold nuclear state. And just to draw you out on this, is there any scenario in which Iran no longer is a threshold nuclear state?
Yeah, the one scenario that you can see, which is not impossible, but is if the regime collapses. I think people are massively over-indexing on this possibility. I mean, basically, the supporters of the war are now predicting regime collapse.
And there are hardliners in the Israeli national security establishment that still believe that this is in the cards.
Yeah. Now, I would note predicting regime collapse is unbelievably difficult. We got it wrong in both directions. I mean, famously, the collapse of the Soviet Union was a total surprise. There have been periodic predictions of regime collapse in North Korea, in Iran, none of which have come to fruition. And actually, this is where the financial aspect of the JCPOA really comes in. Of the Versailles Treaty really come in. Because if there's, the thing that really threatens the regime is its lack of money. It's not so much, I think, that it needs a load of money to build the bomb. It needs money to pay the army. It needs money to pay the Revolutionary Guard. It needs money to feed the people. It needs money for subsidies. It needs money for, just to kind of exist as a government. And, if we're talking about a few $1 billion a month in oil revenue, if we're talking about billions of dollars of unfrozen assets, even before the $300 billion in economic reconstruction, I do think, you are significantly reducing the likelihood of regime collapse. So this is why I think I would not exclude the possibility that the regime collapses. You then have to worry that it's replaced by something harder line.
Yeah, it's not just collapse, it's collapse and positive transformation.
Right.
To become a country that is fundamentally more conciliatory, willing to be friendly or non-combative with the United States, Israel, and Gulf countries.
Bro, what the fuck is this? United States and Israel and other countries. See, this is what I mean. This guy is like a complete a Western douchebag.
And, when you look at the likelihood that the regime collapses...
Not much longer, not the one. I think this cope is actually quite nice to listen to. It's starting to seep into mainstream media. We're going to hear a lot about this stuff. And it's important, I think, to listen to these idiots, because what they essentially... Like, they could have summarized this conversation. This whole conversation could have been a tweet,
and be it replaced by something that's significantly more aligned with our interests. It's like placing your life savings on black 7 on the roulette wheel. It may come up trump, to mix metaphors here, but it probably won't. Your odds of that coming up are pretty slim. So that I think is clearly the best case scenario. But the much more likely, of the set of scenarios that I think much more plausibly arise. As you say, the best one of those is Iran remains a nuclear threshold state. We reach some kind of agreement with Iran that's better than nothing, and it remains a nuclear threshold state.
Well, that's a bleak place to end this conversation.
Why is that bleak? I just think this whole, Iran having self-determination is bleak is such a stupid Western fucking colonizer narrative. It's dumb. And it's actually like showing how fragile all these motherfuckers are. Like, they are completely against any country doing things that isn't dictated by America or the West. They do not want anybody to be doing anything that isn't dictated by the West or white supremacy, because they don't see other people as having self-determination. They don't see other people in the global south having agency. They don't want them to have agency. And this is white fragility here, folks. This is what this is. When the world, see, like people like this guy, in his mind right now, what he's thinking is, for these people, it's for these people, equality, feels like oppression to them. It's like that saying, when you've lived with privilege, equality feels like oppression. And this guy in his mind is like, oh my gosh, we're about to be oppressed. But that's this person's education and indoctrination to think that the way the world is now is its normal state. I think that's the biggest mistake these idiots make, is they think the dynamic of the world that's in play now is how the world has always been. They don't look a little bit deeper and think, well, actually, there are massive injustices committed in order to bring the world into this model. And actually, countries like Iran, countries in the global south getting self-determination is the normal state of the world. No, they think they are illogical and will use it the second they have one, because they don't act logically like we do. They're fine with blowing up the world. That's what they want people to believe. But it's actually, like you say, because they will be able to keep us from fucking around with them, like we don't do with North Korea, Russia, and China. Yeah. My biggest concern now isn't that, we're going into a more equitable world for all. That's the direction we're going in. And that's a good thing. My issue now is white supremacy is going to go, well, if we can't have the world, then you can't too. Because white supremacy has become used to being the operating system of the world. Now, as the world starts to reject white supremacy, like, what is the condition going to be of white supremacy? That fragility is going to come into play. And when white fragility truly hits, that's when you start seeing violence. And this is something we say a lot on this channel, is there's no violence like white fragility. And this is a moment to be very, very anxious about, in my view. It is a moment to be extremely anxious about. Because as that power goes away, white fragility will do some fucking horrible things. Okay, now let's move into this, because this is important. Hamas announces the dissolution of its governing committee in Gaza. I think a pretty big development in Gaza. This happened while I was away. Yeah, exactly, Lauren. I mean, these guys were educated through the end of the Cold War conflict. A single polar world is all they have known. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, this is the next big thing that's happened while I've been away. Let's listen in. This is from Al Jazeera. Hamas announces the dissolution of its governing committee in Gaza.
Well, after running the Gaza Strip for nearly 2 decades, Hamas has announced the dissolution of its governing committee. This paves the way for a transitional technocratic committee to assume responsibility. The committee's activities will be overseen by the Board of Peace, which was set up by US President Donald Trump when the ceasefire between Hamas and Israel was agreed in October.
The head of the emergency committee has just resigned. the government has been dissolved for the preparations to transfer the national roles to the Gaza Management Commission. It's with confidence that all the preparations for the handover of legal responsibilities of Gaza Strip has been completed. These arrangements were presented in a transparent and official manner to the delegation representing the Palestinian factions and the Higher Commission of Tribes.
Well, despite the ceasefire, Israeli attacks are continuing across Gaza. Israeli forces have killed at least 6 Palestinians on Monday. 4 people were killed in 2 separate attacks in Khan Yunis, and several others were injured. And in Gaza City, 2 people were killed when an apartment building was hit. Israel has killed more than 1,000 people and wounded over 3,000 since the truce took effect. Well, in a moment, we'll get the Israeli reaction from Noor Odeh in Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. But first, let's speak to Hani Mahmoud in Gaza City. Hani, how significant a move is this by Hamas? And perhaps you can talk us through what it actually means in practice.
I'm so glad to see Hani still going. Hani is an incredible human being. Every single day, he just turns up again and again and again.
Well, I happened to be at the press conference where we heard the announcement by the spokesperson of the Media Government Office, and it basically suggests that Hamas has stepped back from directly governing civilians across the Gaza Strip. The language of the statement was very clear and straight to the point, just dissolving the governance of the Gaza Strip here by Hamas and its element. Doesn't talk about relinquishing political power, doesn't talk about relinquishing the military wing or disarming, doesn't even talk about suggest this might come later on, but at this particular time it's been viewed as the confidence building measures that Hamas is flexible, Hamas is responding positively and giving the mediator the opportunity to advance talks to post for elements of the agreement, of the ceasefire agreement, and hopefully transitioning to phase 2. It has been an obstacle for the past month since the announcement of the ceasefire. We went through phase 1 that hasn't been fully implemented by the Israeli side, and the talk about transitioning to phase 2 without fulfilling the phase 1. There are still many challenges involving the ceasefire agreement. This does not, the hope here, it impacts the ceasefire in a positive way, but when you look on the ground, there are many of the challenges involving the implementation of the ceasefire. Chief among them is the withdrawal of the Israeli military from areas that has been controlling over the past months across the Gaza Strip, the expansion of the Yellow Line that prevents any meaningful governance body across the Gaza Strip. Here's what exactly it means. It shows that there is concession in negotiations here, that Hamas is flexible, given the opportunity, and paved the way for the technocratic committee to arrive to the Gaza Strip as soon as possible, assume power, and avoid expanding the power vacuum that has been causing a lot of problem to Palestinians. It also facilitates an alternative administration. That has been the demand of not just the mediators, but also the Israeli side, the American side, that Hamas not to continue governing the Gaza Strip. But again, it doesn't involve talking about disarming. It doesn't talk about relinquishing the political power completely across the Gaza Strip. It also removes obstacles, and that's the hope of everyone, the obstacles in the way of implementing the ceasefire fully. And again, so far since the ceasefire was signed, we're looking at more than 1,000 Palestinians have been killed, and almost the number is the exact number, a little over, of Palestinians injured. Also, the crossings are not operating as supposed to be. So there are still many of the challenges that are not addressed here.
Hani, I'll pick up some of those last points with you in a moment. Don't go anywhere. We're going to cross now to Noor Odeh, who's in Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. And Noor, listening to Hani there, this is Hamas showing its flexibility, showing it's willing to make concessions in terms of its obligations. Does this sort of toss the ball, if you like, into Israel's court to do likewise?
Well, it does in theory, but the Israeli government hasn't issued an official statement, but a senior official source is quoted by Israeli media saying that the Hamas announcement is nothing but propaganda.
By the way, I'm also going to cover, just after this one, I'm also going to cover the racist comments by a senator in Paraguay towards Kylian Mbappe and what the fallout has been so far, I think it's so important to look at this. I just feel that there's a lot not being said. Not the European lady from Paraguay.
Media maneuver to try and ease the mounting pressure. Let's just take a step back. In the past few days, Israel has been talking about allegations that Hamas was rebuilding, that Hamas is entrenching its control in Gaza, that it does not want to disarm, and that in fact, the Board of Peace, that its representative, Nikolai Mladinov, wanted to assign blame to Hamas for not moving the ceasefire agreement forward, for not wanting to disarm. This announcement this afternoon kind of muddies the water on the Israeli narrative, because it does offer the mediators, the Board of Peace, Mladinov himself, and the National Committee for the Administration of Gaza some wiggle room to talk about next steps, possibly.
Whoa, China sentences official to death for taking $325 million in bribes. Oh my gosh. I think Trump would have been sentenced to death like 5 decades ago.
Taking over control and then beginning a process of disarmament the way that the factions are talking about it, instead of conditioning reconstruction to disarmament, which is what the Israeli Prime Minister had said less than 24 hours ago. Nothing will be rebuilt in Gaza until and unless Hamas completely disarms, not just resigns from overseeing Gaza.
Noor, I'm going to bring Hani back in, Hani Mahmoud in Gaza City. So the Israelis discounting this move, showing no obvious sign of responding positively in kind, Hani, nor any sign of letting up in their attacks on the Strip.
It's not just the narrative that has been quite negative and not responding in a way that these things might move forward, but on the ground we're seeing attacks are still happening, and not just today. Over the past month, we've seen a scale a rise in the attacks, almost like picking up as intensive as the early weeks of the war, where more of the airstrikes targeted many of the areas. Just within the span of 12 hours, we look at 4 of the airstrikes, one in Gaza City at about 2 a.m. and overnight attacks that killed a man and his wife inside his flat here in.
What the fuck? No way. Breaking. Explosive device detonated near a hotel in Damascus, where French President Emmanuel Macron was meeting with Syria's president, according to reports. Macron is safe, according to the Elysee Palace. What? What in the world? What in the world?
And previous governments, since the war in Ukraine began, have developed the idea of consistent, constant aid to the government in Kiev is something that a large...
Hold on. I don't know how real.
In Gaza City, in one of the neighborhoods that happens to be a dense neighborhood full of not just the resident but also displaced families around the area that was targeted. Further southern part of the Strip in the city of Khan Yunis, where 2 attacks happened just within the span of 1 hour. One on the coastal road that targeted a vehicle moving on a Rashid, the coastal road, where 2 people were reported killed right away, 2 of the passengers of that vehicle, and 15 other injuries were reported to Al Ahli Hospital.
Oh shit, it's real. It's fucking real. Explosions injure 18 in Damascus during Macron's visit. Oh my God, it's real? A number of people have been injured after explosive devices went off in central Damascus, reportedly near the hotel where French President Emmanuel Macron had been staying. A security source told the BBC the blasts were caused by 2 devices. Syrian media said 18 people, including 4 police officers, were injured. Macron is in the capital for talks with the Syrian counterpart Ahmed al-Sharaa at the presidential palace. His officials said he was safe and did not hear the explosions. He just didn't hear the explosions? How did he not? Was he just playing fucking Champs-Élysées too loud? After traveling to Syria, Macron is set to head to Turkey for the NATO summit. The visit continues as planned, according to Elysee Palace. Oh, Champs-Élysées. Boop-boop-doo-doo-doo. Oh, Champs-Élysées. Na-na-na, na-na-na-na, 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 na-na-na-na-woo-boo-lay, Champs-Élysées. Boop-boop-boop-boop-boop-boo. Boop-boop-boop-boo. Boop-boop-boop-boop-boop-boo. Boom, boom, ch. Maybe he just had it on too loud, guys. Maybe he had Champs-Élysées on way too loud. It's a good song. You know, it's a good track. I play it loud. As those reports came in, Syrian state television said that al-Sharaa had welcomed Macron to his presidential palace. How far was his hotel from the capital, I wonder? Oh, shit, man. BBC verified an analysis of blast footage located the explosion at approximately 125 meters from the Four Seasons Hotel on a major thoroughfare.
They don't know what the fuck
Oh my. So it's real. This shit is real? Oh my. Oh shit!
Allahu Akbar, Dani Sudan. Allahu Akbar, Dani Sudan.
In Khan Yunis city. The other attack happened in the heart of Khan Yunis city, in the middle of a displacement camp where a tent was targeted by a drone strike. 2 more people were reported killed and several other with severe injuries. One attack that was reported in southern part of Deir al-Balah city that targeted a vehicle. The initial reports that were made available that the targets managed to escape the area, but their vehicle was caught fire and it was burned completely, but no injuries and no casualties reported from this attack. And just for the record, the drones haven't left the skies of the Gaza Strip. One time you would hear them right in this area. Another time reports coming from the central area or further the southern part of the Strip, coupled with the quadcopters that keep patrolling the area between the area that is under the Israeli control, better known as the Yellow Line, and its vicinity, where many of the people set their tents and tried to stay in the area adjacent to the Yellow Line part.
My thanks to you both for bringing us the view on that Hamas announcement, both from Gaza, Mahmoud in Gaza, Hani Mahmoud, and Nuruddin in Ramallah.
Again with the stupid sunglasses. What's wrong with his eyes? He always wears those stupid aviators. I think was it Joe Biden who made that like a trend with all of these idiots? I feel like it was Joe Biden who made it like a proper trend. Okay. Let's oh man, I don't know what to think of this right now. Not much more has developed after that, so let's keep a track of this. I think it was Joe Biden. Oh, look at our man here. Look at our man. Javier Bardem. This guy. No Country for Old Men guy. Just raising a flag of Palestine at the Spain versus Austria game. Look at this bloke. He doesn't care about who sees his solidarity. He's decided. He has decided that his solidarity is going to be out there in the public. Loud and proud, folks. What a great man. What a great man. He, with Hollywood, being so pro-Israel, anti-Palestine, it's crazy that I would say this, but Hollywood is that way, and it doesn't speak up for the Palestinian people as much. This guy has taken the opposite stance, and no doubt it has impacted the work he gets. But he has also said that in some ways he's getting more work than before. They're just from different people. Hollywood is having its Avengers Civil War moment. Yeah. Good on him, man. That's how you do it. You got to use your privilege for good. And that's what Javier is doing. He's using his privilege for good. And for that, big ups to him. Big ups to him. What a great man. Bro, you have to unblock Zaher, any of the 3 accounts you blocked. Why, Anna? Why? I just don't understand. I don't like when people do Jewish hatred. I don't understand why I should let bigotry into this community. I don't get it. What's the point of bigotry? I'm not gonna do it. If someone comes in and says the First Amendment, well, not in the noisy community, bro. The First Amendment, you can fucking shove that pro-slavery document, burn it. I don't care. The First Amendment doesn't apply here, buddy. If someone's being a bigot, I have all rights to block. And I've spoken to him many times. Okay, here we go. I would block someone if they were being a bigot to Muslims or anybody else. It's not just about Jews or people that I don't like or whatever, or any bias. If someone came in and was speaking, wildly Islamophobic stuff or anti-Islam stuff, we would block them too. Okay. This one. I really love this. I think this is one of the best memes to come out of today's Belgium smashing of America. The Gulf of America has been changed to the Gulf of Belgium. Oh my God, they changed it already. They changed it already, folks. It's gone from one colonizer to the other. Oh my gosh. Oh. I don't think Donald Trump will be loving this. He is not. I'm from Belgium. I was so happy. This was legendary. Yeah. It was. I think they were 1 goal short. I think 5-1 would have been better. But 4-1, we'll take it. We'll take it. Belgium smoked America. It was so good. Hey, Liverpool. Welcome. It was only an exhibition match. Yeah. Look, guys. The fact is, it's the Gulf of Mexico. Okay. But just to piss Trump off, I think this is a great meme. The US team looks so immature. Yeah. Isn't that high scores for soccer? Yeah, it's good, but America's a terrible team. Like, the United States of America has a shit team. It should have been higher. Belgium is packed with stars. Belgium's very strong. They're just playing badly right now. Belgium's very, very strong. Okay, so now we're going to talk about Kylian Mbappe. Okay, Kylian Mbappe and this racist as this Celeste Amarilla lady who said some real racist stuff to Kylian Mbappe. We're going to read about what she said, and then we're going to read Kylian Mbappe's response, and then we're going to read this lady's response as well. Oh my gosh, this is kicked off a fair bit. Hold up, I'm trying to find the original racist tweet. Here we go. Celeste Amarilla, senator in Paraguay, made racist and utterly shocking remarks against Kylian Mbappe on X. This brute hasn't even learned to write. Instead of mother's milk, he suckled on coconuts, and the most educated beings he's ever heard were chimpanzees. You should have given him the middle finger, Orlando Gill. I do it in the Senate and nothing happens. Before adding, a colonized Cameroonian pretending to be French, resentful, nouveau, riche, arrogant, and ugly. He was nervous and scared to death throughout the match, like his whole team. They couldn't even manage to score a single goal. They won on a lucky break. The only thing many of us hold against the Albiroja is not giving him a full-on slap at the end of the match. And yet, I'm not even a soccer fan. So she went on. What was the score? It was 1-0. Okay, so that was the racist comment from her. And this is Kylian Mbappe's response. This is Kylian's response. Madame Celeste Amarilla, you are a despicable woman and unworthy of your position. You do not represent Paraguay, that country which has sweated passion and honor throughout the competition. Through your recklessness and your brazen racism, the entire world has already forgotten the journey and the historic effort that your players accomplished during this World Cup, making way for an incompetent woman who gives the worst possible image of her country. I will never allow people like her the freedom to spread their hatred and racism across the world. 1.4 million likes, 319K retweets, 63.8 million views. She is a senator in Paraguay. A senator in Paraguay. And this is what the senators replied. This is what the senator replied to Kylian Mbappe's reply. The problem is between you and me. I have never said anything against France. On the contrary, I stand with France. I studied at a French school from the age of 2 until I was 17, where I completed my education. I am who I am thanks to the Collège des Immaculée Conception and the education it gave me. We sang Le Marseillaise and honored the French flag alongside our own. I speak French and I love visiting France. Last Christmas, I spent the holidays with my family in Courchevel, and we welcomed the new year in Saint-Tropez. Saint-Tropez. This has nothing to do with France. The problem is with you. Your arrogance and contempt angered me long before the match when you said, if we have to put our hands in the dirt, then let's do it. We are not stupid. We understand perfectly that by the dirt, you meant the Paraguayan team, and the Paraguayan team represents all of us. Then you said you were going to remove our makeup. We understood that too. All of Paraguay remained silent, myself included. We endured it. During the match, your arrogance was obvious. Your contempt for every Paraguayan player was clear, as if they were beneath you. Without even covering your mouth, you shouted, La concha de tu madre. An extremely offensive insult in Latin America, and you know it. By the way, the Paraguayan team were attacking. They were attacking. They were attacking Mbappe. Like, they had targeted Mbappe. All of them. Shirt tugging, kicking, elbowing, all sorts of stuff. Olise as well. They were targeting the French players. Paraguay was playing extremely rough. Finally, you showed complete disregard for the health of our goalkeeper. That is something you simply do not do. Respect between rivals after a match is almost sacred. In war and in peace, in defeat and in victory. Yet you refused to shake his hand and shouted your victory in his face. In a single moment, you displayed contempt and arrogance. My posts were written in the heat of the moment with my blood boiling. Bro, this is the weirdest apology. The blood of a mixed heritage, a beautiful blend of indigenous and Spanish ancestry that runs through my veins. I wrote them while watching you mock those extraordinary Paraguayan players who fought as equals. Bro, she isn't addressing the fact that she called Kylian Mbappe like a monkey, a brute. However, I immediately regretted responding to you with the same insults that I myself received. Oh, hey, man.
I got $5.
You got $5?
Yeah, because I won a challenge.
What challenge?
That I did.
Really? Yeah. You won it? Yeah. Come here, give me a cuddle. Bro, I need your cuddles. She thinks that's justifying racism, yeah. It's so fucking funny, this. A beautiful blend. However, I immediately regretted responding to you with the same insults that I myself received. I realized I was repeating the very behavior I despise, so I deleted the post. I understand that my words offended you because humiliation hurts. Oh! Now I demand that you also retract your statement and apologize to me. I will not tolerate your violence either. You do not know me. You have no idea who I am. And you have no right to say that I am a despicable woman unworthy of the office I hold. Oh!
You follow a detective.
Oh my gosh. Mo to roll up. Hello. I am a senator of the Paraguayan nation, elected by the people. Before that, I was a national deputy, also elected by the people. Thousands of Paraguayan men and women voted for me and consider me their voice. My foremost duty is to speak for the Paraguayan people, to say what they can't say, and to defend my country with my life if necessary. I represent my country because I was freely elected. I was chosen in democratic elections to help make its laws and to be its voice. You have no idea what it means to be elected to defend your nation and represent its people. Who are you to call me unworthy or despicable when you do not even know me? This is blatant gender-based violence. This is political violence against a woman who earned her position through the democratic vote of her people. You insult me because I am a woman. You attack my dignity as a woman and as a political representative. Retract your statements, honor your French citizenship, and apologize. Otherwise, I may pursue legal action for gender-based violence. Celeste Amarilla, senator of the Paraguayan nation. And this is the community note. The senator first made racist remarks against Mbappe, calling him a colonized Cameroonian and referencing chimpanzees before this open letter. Her name is Celeste Amarilla, not Sinizor. Wow. Okay, man. She must have read the Karen for Dummies books, because I feel like she's gonna ask to speak to Mbappe's manager. Mbappe's manager, bro. She's like, hey, can I speak to your manager, please? Oh my gosh. She gonna call Donald Trump? Yeah. My goodness. What a rant. What a fucking rant, bro. She is crazy. So then, she already wrote the letter, so next is to speak to his manager. Yeah, exactly. Louise, exactly. This is what the Paraguayan government has issued. The Paraguayan government issued an official statement condemning and rejecting the racist remarks made by Senator Celeste Amarilla against Kylian Mbappe. Government of the Republic of Paraguay, a statement. The government of the Republic of Paraguay deplores and rejects the statements made by Senator Celeste Amarilla directed at the captain of the French national football team, Kylian Mbappe, as they are contrary to the values and principles that inspire peaceful coexistence and respect for human dignity, which our country promotes. Paraguay is a democratic republic governed by the principle of separation and independence of the branches of government. In this context, the statements made by the aforementioned legislator are solely the exercise of her individual responsibility as a member of the legislative branch and do not in any way represent the position of the government of the Republic of Paraguay or the Paraguayan people. The government of Paraguay reaffirms its firm commitment to the promotion of human rights, equality, and respect among all people, as well as to fight against racism, xenophobia, intolerance, and all forms of hatred or discrimination. It also expresses its solidarity with those who may have felt affected by these statements and reiterates its respect for the French people, with whom Paraguay maintains a historic relationship of friendship, cooperation, and mutual understanding. Okay, great stuff by the Paraguayan government. And I also just want to show you what Macron, Mbappe, Macron made a statement as well about Mbappe. I just want to bring that bad boy up. Yeah, here we go. This is Emmanuel Macron. Another goal for Kylian Mbappe against racism this time. All my support. When words defile, our values respond. Dignité, respect, fraternité. Oh my gosh. Emmanuel Macron trying to jump on the bandwagon after committing, after being complicit in genocide. Emmanuel Macron, excuse me, please don't Don't bring yourself into this. Don't defile this moment. Okay. So that is crazy because she didn't just admit to making racist comments. She didn't just admit to making racist comments. She admitted it and then asked Mbappe to apologize for responding to her racist comments. How much more Karen-esque can you get? This is Karen 101. This is super Karen. It's so insane. The government had to apologize for her behavior. Whew. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Oh, man. Anyway.
So there we are.
Can you believe this lady? Imagine the mental gymnastics she had to go through to come up with that response. I don't know. My ex is a pretty big Karen, but oh, bro, this is Super Saiyan Karen. You know, this is like Super Saiyan Karen level 4. Okay, Israel's constitutional crisis. As if Israel gives a fuck about rules. But let's listen. Let's see what ABC News has to say about Israel's constitutional crisis.
The Israeli government has chosen to defy a Supreme Court decision for the first time, sparking fears of a constitutional crisis. The second authority is the body that regulates Israel's TV and radio broadcasters. Israeli law requires the council to have a minimum number of members to legally make decisions, but since it's fallen short of that number, the government argues it has no authority to act. Last month, the court ordered the council to continue anyway, but the cabinet has voted unanimously to reject the ruling.
We passed a declaratory resolution in the government, a very important resolution which says a very simple thing. The court is not above the law, and there is no anarchy here.
It's not the first time the Netanyahu government has clashed with the judiciary. In 2022, a plan to limit the court's powers sparked a mass protest movement, bringing hundreds of thousands of people to the streets each week. But those reforms were shelved after the Hamas attack on October 7, 2023. Benjamin Netanyahu's political rivals and some legal experts are now sounding the alarm.
The government of Israel announced today that for the first time in the country's history, it will not respect a court order. This is the gravest constitutional crisis in Israel's history. It is the collapsing of the foundations of our democracy. What does this mean? It means that starting today, there's no law in Israel. There is only rule.
The cabinet's decision to reject the ruling could affect the sale of Israel's Channel 13, which is known for being critical of the government. It could also impact regulation of pro-Netanyahu broadcasters. Ahead of an election expected in September, it could be the tipping point for Benjamin Netanyahu, who is facing a corruption trial and an ICC arrest warrant over the war in Gaza.
By the way, I don't know if Lava is still here, but guess what? I learned something incredible. Hey, Spencer, take care, Spencer. I learned something incredible reading a book about Operation Condor, which is about how Pinochet's plans to Pinochet's execution of political rivals around the world. And guess what I learned? That any country in the world can open a trial for crimes against humanity, any country can open a trial for crimes against humanity if the country committing it is not being held to account by the country itself. Any country can open it. It doesn't just have to be the ICC. Any country. So when Operation Condor was happening, Spain opened a crimes against humanity trial, a case against Pinochet, because no one else was doing it. And Spain was able to open a crimes against humanity trial against Pinochet. And this was unprecedented because it had never happened before. But Spain did it. It opened a case which is just as potent as an ICC case. Because if Spain holds Pinochet to account, it means Pinochet can't travel, just as it's just as potent as an ICC arrest warrant. So think about that for a second. Any country can open a trial if they feel that there has been inadequate accountability for the person committing crimes against humanity by their own government. And in this scenario, Israel isn't doing shit to hold Netanyahu to account. So why aren't countries reacting to this? Why aren't countries holding... Is this just a detail that they haven't told us? Yeah, regardless of UN status. Regardless. I mean, the whole point of stopping countries from committing these war crimes is to stop them. People should be empowered to stop these things if others aren't stopping it. All these details are in so I'm currently reading. Hold up, let me just pull up the book and I'll read you guys that section. It's insane that NATO summit in Ankara today. Yeah. Dumb. Honestly, like, what's going to happen? They're going to talk shit. The Condor Years is what it's called. The book is called The Condor Years by John Bingles. Or Binges. Hold up. Let me just open it. Let me find this. I saved it as a note, I think. I saved it as a note, I'm sure. Not this page. Where are my annotations, man? Where are my notes, dude? Where the fuck are my notes, bro? Hold on, let me just search. Crime. Hey, what the? Why? Okay. I need to find it. Hold up. Let me just see if I can find it. Bookmark this page first. Okay. By the way, Pinochet killed the guy who was leading that case. Pinochet actually just killed the guy. Okay, here we go. Here we go. Garces went to talk to Castresana. Look, I told him you have the same juridical foundation to bring a case for the same kind of crimes in the country next door, he said. Castresana was interested. He considered Pinochet to be in the same category as the Argentine generals. Garces offered to provide the factual material for a parallel case against Pinochet. He had recently published reports. He had published report of Chile's National Commission of Truth and Reconciliation, known as RETIG report. Or Retij report, I don't know how to say that word, which contained the country's most complete human rights investigation conducted in the first year after Chilean return to democracy. Using the information from the report, the Prosecutors Association, this time represented by Association President Miguel Miravet, presented a second formal accusation on July 4th, naming Pinochet and other members of the Chilean military junta as the presumed authors of crimes against humanity in Chile, including torture, kidnapping, and disappearances. 7 victims were named, all Spanish citizens. In a separate, meticulous, detailed filing on his own behalf. Hold on. This is actually a little bit. Yeah, here we go. As a sideline to his successful commercial law practice in Madrid, Garces became one of the respected pioneers in the emerging field of human rights law. One day in the spring of 1996, on the 1-hour flight from Barcelona to Madrid after a business trip, Garces read a short newspaper article that would again return Chile and the pursuit of Pinochet to the center of his life. A criminal court in Madrid had begun the prosecution of former members of Argentina's military junta for alleged human rights crimes committed in Argentina 2 decades before. As you can imagine, in a matter of seconds, I made the extrapolation, Garces said. When he landed in Madrid, Garces made inquiries about the case. It had begun with a hypothetical question discussed by a group of public prosecutors. If Argentina was not able to prosecute its generals for human rights crimes, would Spain have jurisdiction? Listen, everybody. Listen. Yeah, if Argentina was not able to prosecute its generals for human rights crimes, would Spain have jurisdiction? The prosecutors concluded that Spanish law, combined with international law precedents going back to the Nazi trials at Nuremberg, allowed such charges to be brought in Spain as long as the crimes involved could be considered crimes against humanity. Why the fuck isn't every country doing this? I don't understand. The prosecution resolved to test the theory by bringing a case to court, acting not in their official capacity as prosecutors, but in a private capacity allowed under Spanish law. On March 28th, within days of the 20th anniversary of the coup that brought the Argentine military to power in 1976, the Association Secretary General Carlos Castresana drafted and filed a formal accusation, denuncia, charging the members of the Argentine junta with genocide and terrorism against 10 victims of Spanish nationality. Again, look at this. Charging the members of the Argentine junta with genocide and terrorism against 10 victims of Spanish nationality. 10 victims. Genocide with 10 victims. The case had been assigned to a special court in Madrid called the Audiencia Nacional and to investigating Judge Baltasar Garzón. Garzón had earned a reputation as a press-savvy, crusading judge for his relentless prosecutions of drug traffickers and of police abuses against the Basque separatists ETA, a group that frequently used terrorist tactics. Garcés went to talk to Castresana. Look, I told him, you have the same juridical foundation to bring a case for the same kind of crimes in the country next door, he said. Castresana was interested. He considered Pinochet to be in the same category as the Argentine generals. Garcés offered to provide the factual material for a parallel case against Pinochet. He had the recently published report of Chile's National Commission of Truth and Reconciliation, known as the Rettig Report, which contained the country's most complete human rights investigation conducted in the first year after Chile's return to democracy in 1990. Using the information from the report, the Prosecutors Association, this time represented by Association President Miguel Miravet, presented a second formal accusation on July 4th, naming Pinochet and the other members of the Chilean military junta as the presumed authors of crimes against humanity in Chile, including torture, kidnapping, and disappearances. 7 victims were named, all Spanish citizens. In a separate, meticulously detailed filing on his own behalf, Garcés linked the Argentina and Chile cases in a way that was later to prove crucial. He charged that the leaders of Chile and Argentina had committed human rights crimes together as participants in a criminal conspiracy. Little was known in 1996 about the alleged conspiracy except its name, Operation Condor. They didn't even have all the evidence. He wrote, the persons cited in the current case against Pinochet et al. Conspired with those of equal rank in the military junta of Argentina to coordinate and multiply the scope of identical crimes of terrorism, assassinations, illegal arrests, torture, kidnapping of minors, and disappearances. The criminal conspiracy followed a common pattern, with those charged herein using public functionaries under their command to commit their crimes and financing their terrorist activities with the national budget, and whose victims include Spaniards and also tens of thousands of citizens of other countries who were assassinated, kidnapped, or detained and disappeared in actions committed in many states of America and Europe. The conspiracy received the name Operation Condor. As evidence, Garcés cited the only authoritative document known at that time, an FBI cable published in the author's 1980 book on the Letelier assassination. The cable was an intelligence report written a week after that assassination by the FBI man in Argentina, Roberto Scher. Operation Condor is the code name for the collection, exchange, and storage of intelligence data concerning so-called leftists, communists, and Marxists, which was recently established between cooperating intelligence services in South America in order to eliminate Marxist terrorist activities in the area. Okay. And then it goes on. Both court filings made the impunity argument. In Chile, there had been not even a single judicial investigation against the military leaders, despite many futile attempts by victims' families to bring such charges in Chile's court. To the contrary, the military leaders had decreed a self-amnesty in 1978 to prevent such court actions. Now, if the ICC can prove jurisdiction to taking on the case to give it to get an arrest warrant, Why the fuck can't every single country, especially European nations, America as well, why can't the American legal system sort this out? Why can't people in America, lawyers in America, bring this case to the court? Why can't lawyers in Europe bring this to court? Why can't lawyers in Canada, Australia, Aotearoa? I mean, there should be court cases against Israel everywhere. What the fuck is going on? Not enough money in it. No, I don't think people know that they can do this. I don't think people know that there is an actual case like this. Like I was just looking through it. I was just reading this book and I was like, holy shit. There's precedent for this. They've done it before. I mean, when you look at this, right? When you look at this, Benjamin Netanyahu, Yoav Gallant are the only ones who've gotten an arrest warrant. Why can't every country be having cases against would be interesting to hear from those involved in that case. Yeah, I'm reading through this book at the moment, MC. I'm reading through this book at the moment. So I will get to that stage, but it's so interesting, isn't it? It's so interesting that there is precedent for this, but no one's doing anything. Gavir needs a warrant. Yeah, 100%. So yeah, I don't understand why there's this. There has to be more aggressive judicial action, man. There just has to be. Like, this can't keep going. Dude, this is so sick. This is why reading books is such a powerful thing. Especially similar events that have happened in the past, because you can pick up these little details that you would never have picked up just by knowing the event, you know? You're reading Orientalism? Nice. Man, I was reading this immediately. I was like, bro, why the fuck isn't every country doing this, you know? For the embassy? Yeah, Michi, I saw that. Edward Said's book? Nice. Yeah. Yeah, but there's sanctions against, if enough lawyers around the world got together and got these cases like running in most countries, you can't just keep doing that, you know? All these things are costs to America as well. So I don't see why judges aren't just doing this. I don't know if they understand if there is a precedent, or if people who know just are like, you know, hope people don't find out. Like, this should be everybody doing it. Anyway, okay, guys, I had a couple more things to go through, but it's okay. I think we can call it there for now. I am actually pretty exhausted. We drove back quite a long way today, so I am going to catch some Z's. I'm going to catch some Z's. But thank you so much for being here with me. I will be back tomorrow. We'll get on this live tomorrow. Same time. Who are we rating? Twitch? Who are we rating? Twitch folk. Let's raid somebody. Let's raid somebody. Oh, lesbian hot sauce. Nice. Let's go. We're raiding lesbian hot sauce. Hot sauce. Lesbian hot sauce. Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you. Roll off the D. I love that name, by the way. Kitty Splain, thank you so much, guys. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, mods. Thank you for being here. There's a lot going on, but it's always nice to have this community. And it's so good to be back. So good to be back. Thank you so much, everybody. Raiders, I want you to be loud as heck in Lesbian Hot Sauces Live. Are you ready? Are you ready for this? Let's go. Kakite, everybody. Kakite, Pomarie. I will catch you all tomorrow. Here we go, Raiders. In 3, 2, 1. Free Palestine. Take care, everybody. And Kakite YouTube, Kakite TikTok. Take care, folks. Thank you so much. Rest up. I will see you again tomorrow. Good night. Free Palestine.